Welcome back to another episode of Collector's Quest. Johnny has been both having internet issues and sick. And Johnny, we hope you feel better. So we were unable to record a new episode this week. So instead, we're releasing the After Dark that we recorded with Joe. Yes, the Joe we talk about on the show. And so if you just listen to every episode, to be clear, this is a unscripted hangout session with Joe where we're going to talk about NES variants mostly. All right. Thanks for understanding. I'll see you next week or 2 weeks from now. I don't know which one. All right. That's it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Collector Quest After Dark.
We did really just rush into this. We didn't prep Joe at all or anything.
We didn't. I figured you'd been talking with him for 10 minutes.
No, I'd only been in here for about 5, and most of it was like, where the fuck is Tyler?
Yeah, I'm completely going into this bareback, so.
All right, bareback.
It's blind, not bareback. That's weird. You've been in Florida for a few months, and you're like...
Oh, sorry about that. It's family friendly, right?
Not really, but
okay.
There's like 6 people listening to this. I don't think you have to worry. Unless JD can hear this in the background. I don't know.
He is dead asleep.
I don't think he knows what that means.
He does not. And he cusses in the car like a sailor, which I don't know what to do about.
Joe, you are the most frequently brought up person on the show. For 2 reasons. One, because you are one of the crazy Nintendo people and have been around forever. And 2, because we have a fake character, Joe the Trucker, who puts us on his background noise on his long-haul trucking trips.
See, Tyler says that, but it's not fake. I know he's just talking to you. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because coincidentally, I am sort of like a trucker. I'm always on the road. So I sort of get the feeling that that's me.
Yeah.
No, that was I definitely was making up some Chicago to Las Vegas guy. Anyway,
who you just named Joe, who also happens to have one of the occupations similar to what our Joe does.
Oh my God.
Very creative. Look, you know how fast you backed away from like when I said I don't know what to do about JD. You're like, kids, I don't know what to do. Run away from this conversation as quick as possible. So yeah, I'm gonna just call you out for your bullshit trucker story.
Joe, for the uninitiated, can you tell people who you are, why you're so important, and that your real name is Joseph, and that we just annoy you by calling you Joe?
I've actually been called Joe my entire life. I don't see myself as that important, so I think we got to get that out of the way. But yeah, I collect NES video games. I like to collect variants and document stuff, and I just sit around eBay all day looking at random stuff.
All right, so you just described everyone in the Discord. That's cool.
Oh, so you've got like, what, 400 Nintendo carts?
Yeah, something like that.
How many of them Nintendo tapes do you have? Also, just give us a little more background. Okay, so you have been around doing this for how long? And when did you get on Nintendo Age? And then how did you get here and everything? What happened?
Well, what happened was I started collecting, I think, around 2010. And I started buying up just everything locally from garage sales and stuff like that. And then I sort of got into buying stuff on eBay when my local supply started to dry up and I wasn't getting any stuff. I was collecting everything at that time. And then I bought something from JJ Hendricks, owner of JJ Games. And then he sent me over to Nintendo Age. And then that was sort of the beginning of the rest of my life. And this was around 2011, so
right. Your stuff dried up that early?
Yeah. Well, it started to pick up a lot by a lot of resellers, and I was getting stuff for pennies on the dollar even back then, and I didn't want to pay, resellers that was doing. They were doing garage sales themselves at that point, and I didn't like it, so I just backed away and just went straight to eBay.
I mean, sure, I did the same thing. It's so funny that you're saying like stuff dried up in the early 2010s for you, and that's like when I got frustrated with flea markets and garage sales and basically gave up. And then like 10 years after that, you still see people on Reddit going to garage sales and picking up like basically nothing. It's like, okay, they're dead. Yeah, I know. Joe, what's the future of video game information? Because I see you as the information guy, and yet you still haven't published a book or made a website or done a YouTube series. So you're the problem, right? So what's the future? The problem is you know everything, but like there's no way to disseminate that information.
The problem is I keep finding pitfalls in my theories, and I don't want to get caught in like, well, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And I want to gather it all
be
first.
The enemy of good?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So you can't say it's letting perfect be the enemy of good.
Yes, you can.
Because if you make a good enough system, it can be updated to account for new or it could like handle edge cases and new situations. Like the HTTP protocol is not the original HTTP protocol. We're in like whatever the version it is, and that version handles whatever all the shit on the modern web is. We're not using ARPANET still.
That's true, but at some point they realized they had enough and they released it, right? And that's my point. You can't just be like, well, I gotta wait to release stuff. I gotta wait to write a book. I gotta wait to do all this stuff until it's finished, because it's never gonna be finished. There's always going to be some nuance that is layered in.
Right. And see, the deeper I go, the more I realize I don't actually know. Like, I'm falling into another sort of pitfall, and I'm realizing like there's a lot of small libraries that connect into like the 60-pin stuff, and it sort of transitions into realizing, wow, there's a whole library I know nothing about. And it's sort of like I'm trying to marry the two libraries of 60-pin and 72-pin. And then once I have that, I think I'll be able to do something with it.
What about 0-pin, though? What about Konami Arcade Advanced Collector's Series or that New York Times Sudoku plug and play? Where do those fit in?
Those two. I mean, those are NES on a chip. They're modified heavily that to the point that I think that you can't even get them to work like in an actual NES. I think you have to emulate it just to get them running. They use like customized mappers and all that, and that's a whole world that Frank Cifaldi is like deep into. Frank Cifaldi, for those who don't know, is the guy that runs the Video Game History Foundation. So and
everyone is most likely to know who Frank Cifaldi is, but all the other stuff you guys just talked about, no one's going to know what that is. So why don't you give an explanation? I mean, people are going to know, but explain what you mean when you just rattle off 60-pin versus 72-pin libraries and this Sudoku game and plug and play Konami. Like, just tell people what that is, because we're leaving them cold.
We do that a lot on the Collector's Quest. We're the worst.
I know. I'm doing what Tyler does now.
All right, I'm sort of talking on top of you guys. I'm not good at this. This is my first time.
Hey, no, don't be. Look, this is exactly how it goes. Tyler and I do this to each other constantly.
You have no idea how much I edit out just us talking over each other. I didn't do it as much, and then I saw a criticism. Like there was like one of these mean podcast reviews. It wasn't of the Collector's Quest, but it was like, these guys keep talking over each other. These fucking assholes. So I'm like, oh my God, people really don't like when you talk over each other, huh? All right. Joe, your turn.
All right. So in the beginning, we have Nintendo in 1983. They launched the Famicom. Everybody pretty much knows that. They used a small cartridge format with 60 pins. That's what we could refer to as 60-pin format. Then in 1985, Nintendo decided to launch the Nintendo Entertainment System in the United States in New York City, October 18th, I think it was, 1985. They launched with 17 games. They were the big cartridges that we all love, 72 pins on them, as opposed to the 60 pins in Japan. And that's where we come with the 60-pin and 72-pin formats that I might use or Tyler might use. There's a couple of other of us weirdos might use.
Excellent. Thank you for the explanation.
So what's the stupid bullshit I was talking? Yeah, the plug and play stuff.
Yeah, there's the well. First of all, there's also the disk system, which a lot of people don't consider part of the Famicom library, but its own library, which I guess makes sense in a broad sense. Those are like floppy disks inside of a proprietary shell. And then the thing that Tyler was talking about are TV plug-and-play games that were popular in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s. These are just little things that you might buy at like at a Walgreens or something like that at a checkout counter, and they use pretty much an NES on a chip. It's like how do I describe it? It's an entire NES system on a single chip, and then you could add software to it, and you could run your own proprietary game on this. So you might see like a SpongeBob one or a Spider-Man or something like Tyler was talking about, Sudoku. Or New York. What did you say, Tyler? New York Times?
I said New York Times Sudoku. That's just my favorite example of it because it's so weird to think like, oh yeah, my favorite NES game is New York Times Sudoku.
Yeah, and then there's one other format too, which I guess you know about, Tyler. It's the Play Choice 10 stuff, and those are the arcade cartridges.
And then just to layer some stuff on there, and the reason we're talking about like the plug and play is essentially that is a Nintendo. These are being, if it's made with this software and the hardware, you're basically making a Nintendo game into a plug and play, which is weird that basically new Nintendo games are being created outside of the cartridge format we're normally accustomed to. So where do you slot those in the library? These are just NES games, so where do they fit? And that's how we got here.
I mean, they fit somewhere really, really deep in a niche category.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't even consider them mainline Nintendo games at all. They're completely unlicensed, aftermarket, hacky, but also at the same time official retail products. So it's a weird gray area, those things.
Yeah, I mean, this is us talking about the all-encompassing, like, if you threw everything into the barrel, what would it look like? Tyler and I normally cut it down. We're like, look, we cut it down to within the life cycle of the console. We put guardrails on this as we do with everything, so we can, if not, because this is an example. If you take the lid off of something, how deep do you want to go? You could go crazy and start counting this stuff, and you'd just be like, okay, cool, I've got 400 plug-and-play games now. Excellent. I'm the best collector there ever was.
I mean, if someone said that to me, I'd be like, hell yeah. I'd be like, oh, man, you're the only one who has 400 NES plug-and-play games? Like, right on.
I mean, most people wouldn't even know that you could consider it a NES plug-and-play game, though, which is the crazy part. Anyways, let's get back to Joe.
Uh-oh.
I was just leaving Tyler to do that. No, anyways, do you have more to say about the Play Choice 10?
Yeah, it is a very cool thing. I'm dying to start collecting into it, but it's just so unrewarding to actually collect those boxes.
Super ugly.
They're so plain, so ugly, and then the insides are so nice. Like you get the marquee, you get the cartridge, that fancy cartridge PCB thing, and it's just so ugly on the outside, and there's no way to display it nicely without actually opening it up and using your stuff, so to speak.
It is a conundrum when the best part of the display, like if you take a Nintendo game and display it, it looks nice. You're like, look at that box. It's representing everything I want. But with the Play Choice 10, you're just like, all right, this is like mid-tier quality cardboard stamped with Play Choice 10 on the front. Cool. It's like collecting electronics from the 70s.
Yeah.
Boring.
I don't know what you're so I love Play Choice. I don't know what you're talking about that the inside is cool. So the inside has a topper. It's like the smallest little like 10-inch plaque that you would put on top of the arcade machine. But then it's like a loose PCB that's wrapped in aluminum foil inside the most brittle styrofoam you've ever seen. Like the inside sucks.
I think you guys should develop a custom cart to put that in.
Actually, I think there is one. I think there is like a one of those like multi carts for the Play Choice 10 out there.
Well, no, not that. I meant like a custom shell for each one. So when you pull that PCB out, then you put it into a shell that looks reminiscent of a NES game, and then you can get rose-colored gaming to make you a stand. You can just display them with the topper and have the best Play Choice 10 collection.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I'd like to see something like that. But that requires work. So
it does require work. All right,
you got enough work to do. I mean, we are putting work on you constantly.
Yeah,
I just want you to release something. As someone who like starts a bunch of projects and just leaves them indefinitely, like gamehistoria.org, or I was gonna make like really good lists of console libraries, and I was gonna make like just a resource that just points you to all the other collecting resources, just like one webpage that's just like, hey, if you want homebrew information, go to NES World or Video Game Sage. Hey, maybe check out these Discord groups, maybe check out these Facebook groups. Never getting around to that. Joe, I'm just gonna tell you to get around to your projects. What's going on?
I got too many of them in my head that I want to do, and then it's like I guess like I'm like a little dog chasing after something, and every time I get distracted by something else, it's like, ooh, shiny, let me do that.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with new projects. New projects are always inherently exciting, especially if you've been working on something else. You're like, I'm at the hard part of this project, but this new project sounds fun. I can do the beginning review of information. And that's awesome. I love that. And then you have 45 projects like Tyler.
Yeah. I mean, I've literally got like 10 Excel sheets open up right now, just waiting to reference one of them. And I don't know which one is actually ever going to come in use, if any.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Tyler, I don't know if you've listened to the After Darks we do like this. This series should basically just be called The Guys We Need to Write a Book About Stuff. So, like, so far we've had you and Daddy Mulk and Jason, Game Rave, talk to us about stuff. But, I really want to touch on variants. I want to, we got to that play choice end, but let's get to normal guy variants that happen on the NES, and we will go deeper than that. But, give us some of the common variants, not like Left Bros stuff, but a little like one level deeper than Left Bros variants that you have encountered on the NES, and then we'll get down to into the weeds on that.
I think we lost him.
Tyler?
What? You're talking to me? I thought you were talking to Joe.
I was talking to Joe. I don't know. I don't know why I threw it back to you. I just passed the ball to you. I was like,
what happened?
I don't know. I was asking Joe to list.
Am I going to start talking about NES variants?
Yeah,
I'm not the guy.
I think we need to go back a step because I think you said Tyler.
He was complaining at me for being a bad host to you. So we're going to now start the show with you talking, telling us about Nintendo variants and not Left Bros, because that's boring. We need to go into some real shit like 3 and 5 Screw Johnny, some real obscure stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get. Well, I was going to let him kind of freeform it. Like, what kind of variants do you like? Tell us about some common ones. Tell us about some you like. Maybe some that people haven't heard of. If you want to get into some art variants or screw variants or chip whatever you want to get into. Like, I'm here to be educated on Nintendo variants at a deeper level.
All right. Well, I mean, everyone's favorite variants is the hang tab stuff. Everybody loves 5-screw hang tab, all that early Nintendo 1985 to 1987, 88 stuff.
I'm really into the 83, 84 stuff. I don't know what you mean.
That's not Nintendo. That's Japanese stuff. That's not Nintendo. Come on.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where the bulk of actually all the variants really are to begin with. I mean, after 1990 or something, the variant list just gets really, really boring. It's very minor stuff or very polarizing stuff like art changes. So it's like real easy to identify. There's no mystery after like 1990 onwards. So there's not really too much to explore there. So all the interesting stuff happened at the beginning of the NES. It's sort of like when Nintendo was getting their foot on the ground and developing their manufacturing lines. I mean, they had the Game & Watch stuff before that in America, but nothing to the scale of the Nintendo Entertainment System was. I mean, it was a phenomenon. They had the entire gaming market pretty much to themselves. They was competing with who was it? They was competing with Atari 7800 and the Sega Master System, which had virtually zero impact in the U.S. So they had pretty much the entire market to themselves. So they were developing all of these manufacturing lines, and that's sort of where all these variants came from, just from different production lines and different production standards and everything, and it sort of came to a head, I think, around 2008 when everybody started collecting this stuff in deep detail.
I mean, Nintendo Age started in 2007, so you're saying it's Kenneth's
right
fault
around there
that we all did this?
Yeah. So right around there is when everybody started collecting this, and it was basically decided by Nintendo Age what's the cool stuff to collect. And here we are about 15, 20 years later, and everybody just wants, all the old stuff. So what exactly would you like me to start with? I mean, I could go in 20 different directions.
Well, I want to go in all 20 directions, but I'm comfortable with you picking just one. How about you just talk about some basic screw variants so people know what those are?
All right, so screw variants. If you look at, you could actually tell the difference of what cartridge you have from basically all sides of the cartridge. On the front, you could look at the top and see if there's any of those dimples or not. And then on the back, you'll see very clearly whether there's 5 screws or 3 screws that keep your cartridge together. So 5 screws, it's the first 87 to 90 games that have a 5-screw variant. I don't know how to present this really interesting. I mean, on paper, to me, it looks interesting, but then when you actually go and talk about it, it just sounds so boring.
Look, we're in the After Dark. We're not concerned about how boring it is. Just
that's the best part, but also you're only talking to weirdos right now.
Yeah. You are talking to those who are interested in the deep magic, so feel free.
All right. Well, since I'm talking to only us weirdos, and it's only going to be 5 of us that are outside of this chat right now that's going to hear it, I guess I could speak a little freely. So, but yeah, I mean, there's about 95 screw variants. Not all of them came with a corresponding 3-screw game. There are, let's see here. There's 8 games that never came with a 3-screw variant. So those 3 games are...
can I guess them? Because that's interesting.
Go ahead, see if you can guess.
Clue Land.
Okay.
Soccer.
Okay.
I'm quickly running out of steam. What other black box games suck, Johnny?
Popeye.
Volleyball. No, there's a 3-screw volleyball. Shit.
No, there is a 3-screw volleyball.
Popeye is my guess.
Ooh, Popeye. Nope. Good one.
Nope. Those exist as well.
Donkey
they
Kong
actually
Junior
even have
Math.
a Ovasil. Donkey Kong Junior Math. That's sort of like a 50-50. No one's really sure.
I was going to say, I could pull up that definitive black box SWATA list and try and guess from there.
All right, give us the other ones.
Well, so you guys got Clue Land, Soccer, and DK Math. The other 2 black boxes are Stack Up and Gumshoe.
Oh, of course, Gumshoe. Who would buy Gumshoe?
I love Gumshoe. Shut up.
And then for the other 3 non-black box games, it's Chubby Cherub, Muscle, and Scoon.
Oh,
that makes total
so obvious
sense
now that you said them.
So yeah, and the DK Math one, I mean, there's a couple 3-screw carts out there. It's just all of them have no labels on the back, except for the one that Braveheart has, or Eric, whatever you want to call him.
Braveheart's we talk about him.
Yeah, so Braveheart has one with the back, and it has no factory stamp on the back as well. So that leaves just another layer of insecurity whether it's legitimate or not. Then as for Soccer and Muscle, people always say that there's a 3-screw, and there's photos out there that show 1 copy, and it's really blurry.
I've seen that it's like a soccer photo. I don't know about the other one, but I've seen that soccer photo, I think.
Well, yeah. I think I have the soccer photo in my hard drive somewhere, and you could argue that it might be a Canadian variant because the corner where it would say CAN is blocked out. So you can't be sure if it's actually a U.S. copy. And all of the variants I'm talking about right now are U.S. centric. I'm not talking about Canadian variants at all because that's a whole different can of worms that I don't want to open up right now.
Fair enough.
Do you think people are going to care? I mean, I think already people don't care about screw variants as much as they did in maybe, say, the 2010s. But do you think it's going to matter less because in most cases people want the box variants now? In terms of like what the money's going after, it's like hang tabs. And I feel like people care more about TMs and Rs and left bros now than people care about like a 3-screw stinger. Is that like a cool one?
Oh my God, that's my holy grail. I'm dying for one.
So for like 6 weird guys, there's like these weird, really rare screw variants that are out there, but like, who's going to care about that in 5 years? Who's going to care about that in 10 years? Do you think this is basically a variant category that's going away, except for the fact that it pairs with like the hang tab box?
I don't think it's going away. I would have said yes, absolutely 2 years ago, but I've noticed that a lot of the old crowd sort of is inspiring some of the new crowd to pick up the old habits. Like if you go on Instagram right now, the masked gamer. All right, well you don't have to do that, but Johnny, you could go ahead. Okay. I know you don't want to resurrect your old habits, but if Johnny goes on Instagram right now, he could see the masked gamer just posted his 5-screw stadium events variant, and it graded a 9.6, and everyone's sort of fawning over it, and just drooling all over themselves for it. And there's a lot of big players are actually commenting on that thread, so it's I don't think it's quite going away.
I wish I could be excited for these things, but I am not. I just, especially when you say stadium events variant, I couldn't get less interested faster. Just like, man, so boring to me. So boring. Anyways, not you're not boring me. I don't want to sound like that. But like, people getting hot and heavy about stadium events alone or stadium events variants. It's just like, guys, this is the least interesting game. Please go look at anything else.
And there's 3 of them. There's 3 variants of stadium events.
Oh, tell us the other ones.
All right, so we have the 5-screw variant and the 3-screw variant, which are the 2 major variants. But if you look at the label on the more common, and I'm using air quotes here, the more common 3-screw variant, the label is shifted to the right a little bit. And that clips off a trademark symbol underneath the Stadium Events logo. So there's a rare variant of the common Stadium Events game that shifts it to the left about 2 or 3 millimeters, and the TM is not clipped off. This same label is also on the 5-screw cartridge. So it's sort of like you could see there's a transition from 5-screw with the centered artwork, 3-screw with the centered artwork, and then 3-screw with the clipped off artwork.
Now, which would you say is the least common of all 3 of those?
Well, definitely the 5-screw. There's only 3 known copies.
Okay. So, yeah, you hear that? If you have stadium events and you don't have a 5-screw, you're collecting garbage. Get rid of it.
It's true. I agree. So, just recently, like a couple days ago, a 6.5 stadium events, I think, sold for an all-time high in that grade, whatever. It was like just under $20,000. And like, there have been a couple stadium events that sold for $20,000 or $30,000, but they were like really nice carts. Like, who cares how nice your stadium events cartridge is? If you're gonna blow a ton of money on stadium events, get it complete in box. But one in like okay condition sold for a really high price, and then fucking Masked Gamer comes along with like the best possible stadium events cart it's possible to own. How dumb do you have to feel buying your mediocre stadium events for record price? I know he's not going to sell his awesome cart because he's like, oh, I'm the best. I don't get it. I think you should get a 5-screw too, even though there's only 3 of them apparently.
Only 3 known, so yeah.
Man up.
It's the Holy Grail variant of the Holy Grail game.
No, stop calling it. It's not. Stadium events is such bullshit. God, what? Like, we go into this hobby because we love games, and then we cherish the most mediocre, boring fucking game no one ever wanted. Just give me a break. God, what a conundrum this is. It's so stupid. I hate it.
Well, you got to stand out somehow, right? I
mean,
you can't have...
No, you don't have to stand out in this way.
You can't have boring boring Holy Grail stuff like Mahjong and stuff like that. Come on.
Like Action 52 is a great holy grail, right, guys?
I would take Action 52 over stadium events. That's my hot take as our holy grail. Look, I feel like I already cast us into the dumbest timeline when I was like, you know what should be the best? It should be like Mario, games that people love. And then, like, I said that, what, Tyler, on Collector's Quest, like 2017 or something stupid. And then suddenly that happened. And I was like, oh, I forecasted the dumbest timeline. Never mind. I should keep my opinions to myself.
Dude, without your influence, I might not even own a copy of Super Mario Brothers, which I bought for $30, a hang tab.
So stupid.
Because I'm just like, oh, I guess I better get the best games for the game draft and all that.
I still feel that way, though. Like, what should you own? Like, not some weird esoteric, like, oh, I got this Mahjong. Have you ever played it? No, but it's the rarest. It's like, do you have a Mario? No, you mean that game we all love that, like, people are going to know about when you talk about it? They walk into your office, like, you're going to show them Mahjong, and they're going to be like, I don't know what, is this Go? And you're like, no, it's, show them Mario, is my point. Show them Mario, please. But, like I said, I said that, now look at us. Look at where we are.
So I guess we're all sort of responsible in our own way for destroying the game collecting hobby, huh?
A little bit, yeah. Some of us more responsible than others. I think Tyler's the most responsible.
I'm not taking credit for anything, but it's so weird going into like the Greg Discord and seeing people like asking for the best way to buy sealed Japanese games, which like never came sealed, to be clear. Like people are like, oh, investing in sealed Japanese games. And like that's an obvious thing to go after considering American prices. So it's not my fault, but I do talk about them a lot.
You have hyped it up. And I was always like, no one's ever going to care. And see, you created your own worst enemy. You created that.
I mean, that's the problem. I mean, Joe does the same thing. It is fun to talk about the things we love, but if by engaging people in conversation with things like weird variants or Mahjong or Sachin games, like you're just creating competition for yourself when it comes to buying those things. But you want to be able to talk about fucking Sachin games with someone because there's like 2 people on planet Earth that are willing to talk to me about Sachin games. And it's Josh Byerly and Joe, and Johnny is just like, oh, remember that time I said Super Mario Brothers is cool? It's because no one cares about fucking Sachin games.
Yeah. No one does care about Sachin games. They're so boring. Again, another boring, dumb thing that people like, and I've had this stance for a very long time. But I don't think, like, yes, we create our own competition, but, you know, we also don't worry about that here. Like, whatever. The whole podcast is about just talking about the things we like. And if that means they get more popular and people buy them, I guess. Cool.
I mean, have you ever seen the cover art for Hellfighter?
I've had a save search for Hellfighter for so long, Joe.
It's the best cover art.
Johnny, do you know what it is?
No, I don't. What is this?
Well, Hellfighter is, I think it's trying to be a clone of Castlevania.
Oh, you have my interest.
It is a Sachin. Is that how you say it? I say Sachin. So it is a Sachin game. So just Google Hellfighter.
Is this the one that looks like Kung Fu in Castlevania had a baby and there's like a shirtless man in a thong on the cover?
Yes, it's that one.
Okay, yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so yeah, it's just the best cover art that there is for an NES game. It's like a guy holding a skull that's glowing, and he has a sword somehow. Like,
yeah, where is that sword attached to?
Yeah.
Is that attached to his thong? His like flesh-colored thong? What is happening in this cover?
It's great. That's all I know.
Yeah. Man, this is why I don't look at Sachin stuff. You're just like, what? Because I love dumb stuff. That's the other thing. I love dumb stuff. So this would be something I'm like, this is so dumb, maybe I would buy it. And that's why I have to stay away from this stuff. Yeah. What the
So yeah, I mean, when it comes to Sachin stuff, I mean, it's also, that's just, it's past a can of worms. It's just a can of maggots, to be honest with you. I mean, nobody wants it, and just, it's sort of like they printed the stuff on demand and every copy is its own variant of itself. Like, it's
That's what makes Sachin feel real to me, though. Because when people say, like, NES God ordered, like, however many copies of some Sachin game, I believe, like, okay, so you're talking, like, a dozen copies or, like, 20 copies or something, like, really, really small. And then when people say, like, I mean, we all know this is a ridiculous bullshit claim, but like, there's 200 copies of Stadium Events. Like, really? There's 3 production variants and they made 200 copies? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's no way. But like, everything Satchin makes feels like it was like someone slapped it together by hand. And it's like, oh yeah, someone just...
It really feels like it was just like one guy with a small warehouse or a storage unit or something. And like, he would just print out an order of 67 or 66 games, whatever you ordered at the time, and just whatever paper he had on hand, that's what he would use. And different color cartridges, and there's like different label qualities, and then different box production types, and different colors of the boxes, and different paper qualities of the sticker that goes on the generic labels. And then there's the original art boxes, and then there's a different hole in the cartridge. It's like so many different things. And then some cartridges even come with a ribbon that you could attach to the Sachin Golden Key, which is a pin converter that they also sold.
Okay.
And so all of this feels so like authentic to me. Like, none of this was supposed to exist. Like, all like kind of the same thing as everything we look at, like, you know, hang tabs and TMs and Rs and screws and all that stuff. You look at like working designs, and there's a bunch of like intentional stuff like, ooh, I'm enticing the collectors with like the collectory stuff, which isn't as interesting to me as when just like stuff happens to have like the different box colors. So Satchin games come in like what, 4 different box colors, and there's no reason to it. It's just kind of like because
5 different boxes, 5 different box colors. There's the generic, there's the ultra generic that are the most common variants. Again, air quotes. They come in purple, light blue, green, and orange. Then there's the more rarer generic box that they use, which is like a you ever see like TV static noise? It's like that, but like a blue tint to it. That's the previous generic box. And then there's the original artwork boxes, which are complete artwork on an original box. Nothing generic about it. And there's something like 40 of the 67 games they published with those boxes.
And to be clear, on the generic box, it says like the Satchin logo, and there's like a bunch of like generic shapes. And did they slap the cartridge label on the box? Is that what they did? Or is it its own unique label?
They slapped the cartridge label on the box, and we had an accidental discovery at my house not recently, but a few years back, right before COVID, actually. Wow, it's been a while. But right before COVID, my son ripped one of my boxes, one of my Sachin boxes, and the label I seen, if you turn it over, there's another label for a different game on it on the back. That might be another layer of variant info.
You got to peel up your label like, oh, do I got the huge insect on the back?
Right. Now you got to peel the label too.
Yeah, see, this is why I'm not into Satchin variants and why I like controlled variants. Because this is chaos, right? This is the workings of no production quality and no standards versus... Yep. So you can't plan for it. You can't organize it. You can only document the cases you've seen, but you can't be like, and we should see X, Y, and Z happen. You can't extrapolate really down very far because if someone has no process, then anything could be happening. And that's where Satchin stuff is. Working design, you might not like it, but you're like, look, these are the variants that are out there. We're not like, there's going to be a few stray things that happen. But this is like pretty much it. And then, I mean, we already have a layer in there, and Joe, you and I talk about this, but factory variation within like what Nintendo wanted to happen versus what just happens in factories. There's a gulf there, and weird shit happens in factories. And not everything of 100% perfect quality is the only thing on the market. You know, things that arrive at like 90% of quality arrived in the market at discount stores. And so they may not have maps. They may not have inserts. They may have different seals. Lots of dumb shit can happen. So we're already fighting that. And then we have to like look into this dumpster fire. I'm not interested.
Yeah, and I like how we started this by saying, give us some like medium level variant info. That's how we started, and then I just went straight into the deepest abyss that there was.
Yeah, well, we're
Do we
always
need to
staring
like
into the
rewind
abyss.
and say what Satchin games even are? Because we don't do that on the podcast a lot. We just bring them up, and like there are NES collectors who don't know what Satchin games are.
There's hardcore NES collectors that don't even know about the Satchin stuff. But
Look,
yeah,
I know a lot about Nintendo, and my knowledge of Satchin is pretty limited because I don't care. So it's like, if you don't care, you don't look. So,
well, yeah, I mean, even in the Nintendo age days, I mean, that stuff was buried deep in the database that they had, and that database was very comprehensive. I mean, you could have found pirated stuff easier than you could have found the Satchin stuff because nobody knew how to classify it. Like, is it considered worldwide stuff? Is it considered its own category?
Well,
is it considered American stuff? And they just gave it its own fake region. And,
yeah, isn't that because like we weren't sure if it came out of Malaysia or not, like made in Malaysia for that market, but then just sold here?
Yeah, it was well, it was all made in Taiwan. If you look at the boxes, the I think some of the boxes say you could order on their website, which tells you sort of a little bit about their more modern history, that it was sachin.co.tw Taiwan or something like that.
Yeah.
And the generic stuff is a lot more modern as opposed to the original art stuff.
No thanks. No thanks, Satchin. Tower, are you going to tell people what Satchin is since you brought it up? Do you want to?
It's a Taiwanese game developer. Are all their games original? I don't think all their games are original because they have like Galactic Crusader. I don't know if those are pirated or what, but they made like they made more than this, but for the American market, they made like something like 68, 69 games. And I say for the American market, but it's weird because it's definitely not something you bought at like KB Toys. Like maybe, and there are people who like attest to it, but like maybe like your weird import shop or your weird like porno video shop would have some Satchin games because they were cheaper to get than Nintendo games or whatever. But like you'll never find these at like a flea market or anything. They're so rare.
These are not retail releases.
I have a distinct memory of actually seeing this stuff in stores in America. It was in New York City on, I think it was Rodeo Drive. And this is where, you get all these bootleg purses and bootleg CDs at the time, or actually bootleg cassette tapes and stuff like that. And one of the stores had video games. And I remember seeing all these games I've never heard of, and in these purple and green and blue generic boxes. And this is where I remember seeing them for sale in the United States in the 90s. And it was in Chinatown, basically.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's where you'd find like the weird knockoff Nintendo games. But like,
yeah,
they're not all they're not like pirated games, or at least most of them.
Well, they're the few pirated games that they do make, they're not actual pirates. They just pirated the IP, but they've wholly made the games themselves. So, like for example, they have Rockman X, which is also called Thunder Blaster Man in America, or in English, I should say, to be more precise. They have Gaiopolis, which is an arcade game that they ripped, and they didn't really make it well, to be honest with you. And then they have, I can't remember right now. There's another third one. I'm drawing a blank right now, but they made a few copycat games using other people's IP, but they wholly made them themselves.
I don't know, Johnny. This is sounding like some pretty interesting stuff.
Well, we can talk about it's the After Dark. We can talk about whatever we
I know.
want.
I feel like Joe, me and you like dragged Johnny here, and Johnny's like, I woke up at 7 a.m. to talk about Satchin games.
No, I woke up at 6:30 because I had to shower and stuff first. But just
I see.
On a Sunday.
I just wake up exactly when I'm supposed to record and then show up late. So.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I was late too.
I mean, if you want to have your morning coffee, I mean, we could just talk about Super Mario Brothers all day.
No, no one wants to hear about Super Mario Brothers. Look, we'll save that stuff for a regular episode of CQ, and we'll bring you on. We'll talk about all the good stuff. But in the After Dark, we can go wherever we want. Tyler and I once looked at statues for 2 hours. Okay.
That was a great After Dark.
It was. I had so much fun looking at statues. It was so stupid. But I'm just setting the bar here about things we can talk about. And also, statues, the most visual thing ever. Not great podcast material.
I know. Everyone probably hated it, but I loved it. Because I was there looking at the statues.
We had fun. We were having a nice time. How did we get on statues? I don't even remember. That wasn't our intent. That's what's great about the After Dark. So my point is, we can do whatever. But let's revisit some of the screw variants again. Go back, circle back to that, and then tell me some more.
So yeah, we covered the 5 screw games that have no known 3 screw variants, or really esoteric, unknown, unsure 3 screw variants. So we covered those. And then, let's see, I got to sort of sort my list by release date, so I could do this next little side topic I wanted to bring up. Okay, so here's this next thing I wanted to bring up. The hang tab and the screw variant list sort of intersects with each other. The hang tabs and the 5 screws, as everybody should know by now, is the first releases of everything. And then slowly Nintendo transitioned out of the hang tab boxes, because originally you're supposed to punch these hang tabs and hang them on the shelf, and then they fail completely because the boxes are not thick cardboard, and then they just rip. So yeah, they transitioned away from the hang tabs. And for a brief period, they actually kept the 5 screws with the hang tab, without the hang tab. So in that list, I have 19 games that have 5 screw copies, or should have 5 screw copies, and no hang tab on the back. So with those, you have Tiger Healy, or Heli, Winter Games, Alpha Mission, Lunar Pool, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Rad Racer, Zanuck, Breakthrough, Goonies 2, Gotcha the Sport, Jaws, Kid Nicky Radical Ninja, Star Force, Super Pitfall, Top Gun, Mega Man, Wizards and Warriors. There's also 2 that I left out on this list. Karate Kid and Side Pocket. These are 2 games that have no known 5 screw variant that should have a 5 screw.
Just based on the date codes and all that?
Right, just based on the release date and the fact that those few games listed after it have known 5 screw variants, and some of them are actually pretty common. So Karate Kid and Side Pocket was released in November of 1987. There's 10 other games released after or during the same time period as those 2 games. So it doesn't line up why they don't have a 5 screw card.
I mean, to me, it just makes sense that like factories are not consistent, even though like they're just the first ones off the line in the 3 screw production process.
Right. It could be that too. And the real reason's unknown. But if you look at the 10 games that are released alongside them, or even right afterwards, it sort of doesn't make sense. Like Wizards and Warriors, that's a common one. Top Gun, that's a common one with a 5 screw, and those are after the release of these 2 games. Goonies 2 is another as well.
So, no offense to like Tiger Heli, because no one cares about Tiger Heli. You bring up like Mega Man and Tyson 5 screw variants, and I know both of those are interesting, like just as cartridges. And I've always thought of those as like almost weird releases, because like the 5 screw Tyson, for example, doesn't that have orange bullets, or am I misremembering that?
When it comes to that, I mean, it's been faked so many times, not faked, but transplanted so many times that there's no really telling anymore.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you have like a slightly damaged label on those 2 cartridges in particular, you could basically throw it out at that point, because there's no telling if it's a transplant or not.
So tell us what you mean by transplant, so people know what you're talking about.
So when I say transplant, I'm saying if you carefully lift the label off of a 3-screw cartridge, you could just rip off the label off of a 5-screw, a generic 5-screw game, whatever you want, and then re-adhere the label onto that the donor that you're using, basically, and then put the printed circuit board inside, and then show it off, and then pretend that it's a actual original 5-screw game. This happened a lot in recent years, but it actually happened even before, when people identified that Mega Man and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out are desirable in 5-screw format.
Also, just to get back to that conversation that we kind of half started, do we think this stuff will matter? Is this going to be a lost thing to time? Just throwing this out there, and you guys tell me what you think. You know, as we're just getting into grading companies grading CIBs, I think people are going to start to grade loose carts eventually. If you look at action figures, people grade loose action figures all the time. Sometimes people like that format. I think if we get into that, then we might see a premium on screw variants even more so than now. It's a reason I think it wouldn't die when people start to care about this kind of stuff, especially when you can look at it and see it.
You see, we can look at it and see it, though, because we've been doing this for like years. But even like the average, I don't know, like I hate disparaging groups, but just like a person, let's say a Pokemon person who just got into video games on the side, and like they know a little bit because of like the WADA Black Box Guide and stuff. They don't have the same thing where they look at a game and they're just like immediately like their eyes go to the top of the cartridge and they're like, 5-screw. Like maybe someone like taught them to do that, but like a more casual video game collector doesn't have the same like immediate like, oh, that's a 5-screw or oh, that's a 3-screw. I feel like it doesn't have the same impact as a more major variant. I don't know.
I don't think so, but I think if you put it on the label and then you can literally turn the clear plastic case over and see what they're talking about, I think that adds something.
I guess, but then you're turning it down to the back. But because like, yeah, even saying this, like, even as a video game collector, when I learned about 3-screw and 5-screw, for years I would turn cartridges over to look at the number of screws on the back, not realizing that they hinge at the top of the case, let you see it from the top or the front.
Right, that's what I was trying to mention earlier. You could see from the front and the top and the back of what cartridge you have.
But like, if you just learned about this, you're going to be turning over cartridges because you're like, oh, the screws are on the back.
Well, if you're telling me it's a 5-screw variant and it's graded, I'm still going to, yes, I'm going to know looking at the top. Yeah, okay. But I'm also going to turn it over and be like, yep, look, there's 5 screws, because that's just what people do. They're just going to turn it over anyways.
And here's the reason I think it's not going to go away anytime soon. The fact that people love the misnomer of first print, and the fact that 5-screw is generally the first print run of these games. I mean, I think it's sort of inherent to NES collecting. I think it's just an integral part of being an NES collector in general to like the hang tabs and like the 5-screw stuff.
That is not true. Let me point you to an article Johnny wrote in 2011 where he's like, hang tabs are bullshit. Who wants these low quality, ripped up garbage?
I did say that. I'm not sure if that's a good take or a bad take in this day and age. But also, I mean, I still believe it. Like, hang tabs just get messy. If you just want like a nice looking cart and box, like just buy a nice one. Hang tabs usually aren't nice.
But see, WADA preserved they sort of carried it over by tricking everybody into thinking first prints are a thing. So
no, see, I don't mind WADA saying like first prints are a thing when I realize like, oh, date codes, do PCBs, like whatever. Like, all right, say like a matte sticker, a gloss sticker for certain games is like a first print. It's the people who say like fourth print. The fourth print, WADA tricked people into thinking fourth prints are a thing. And their whole ethos for not putting that number on the label was like, we know that like it's impossible to say like what's a fourth print, what's a fifth print. So we're just not going to say that. But then people start saying it anyway. So this is still your fault, Kenneth, or whoever made that spreadsheet.
Let's back up a second. Let's talk about why. Let's get into date codes and PCB codes. So just so we can clarify these muddy waters, so why you can't actually call things a first print. We've talked about it a little bit, like especially when we get into Ninja Gaiden for Tyler, but let's explain these waters.
All right, so I'll explain the easy one first, which is date codes.
Except for games that don't have one.
Well, yeah, exactly. Date codes are what you would find on the top right flap of a box and the last page on the bottom right corner of a manual for the NES, except for all boxes and manuals printed before October 1988, and for most of the tall manuals that exist, like think of
Gunnack.
Right, think of Gunnack, think
Final
of Wizardry,
Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. There's I think like something like 40 of them, and those typically don't have the date codes printed on them.
That's what I want people after. I want people after the tall manual subset of Nintendo.
Yeah, and it's something like I'm trying to do myself. I mean, I'm missing. I think my Gunnack is missing a manual, and that's it. And I need to. I need to get one.
Man, I don't have enough complete box NES games. I didn't know there were 40 of them. I could have named like maybe Final Fantasy off the top of my head.
I think it's something like that. I mean, I'm just quoting off of memory, to be honest. I don't have that list handy.
All right, well, someone make that list. Got to see. I want a list of all the tall manual games.
Well, you know I'm going to do that after this now, right?
Yes. Yeah, look, I know what kind of weirdos I'm talking to here. Please make a list and send it to me and prove to me how weird you are.
So yeah, going back to the date codes, October of '88, that's when they were introduced, and everything before that doesn't have a date code on it, except on the inside of the cartridge.
Oh yeah, the good stuff.
This is the more mysterious waters beneath the abyss. This is like the Marianas Trench of variant collecting. Tyler, do you want to tell them about Matt Mario's date codes?
I mean, it's the same as any other date code, but if you're so there's 3 chips that have date codes that matter. I mean, it's really none of this matters. It's up to you what you think matters. So, but the 3 main chips on a Nintendo PCB, and like the most basic one, we're going to go with Super Mario Brothers. Like I realize other mappers, which are just a mapper is a version of a cartridge, like the chip layout of a cartridge. They could have fancy chips, like Castlevania 3 is like a fancy chip for more effects. But a basic Nintendo cartridge has 3 chips. It's the PRG ROM, the CHR ROM, and the CIC chip. So one of those is graphics, one of those is the game program, and one of those is the lockout chip for security. And all 3 of those have a 3 or 4 character date code on them. And it's usually something, so like the 4 character ones, what is it? It would be the first 2 digits are the year, and then the second 2 digits are the week in the year. Yep. So like 8539 would be 1985, the 39th week of 1985. And then there's other ones like, what is like 5K3. There's something with a letter in them. Right. Do you remember what those translate to?
Yeah. So 5K3, the way those chip codes work is 5 represents the year. So you would need to assume the decade, which is 1985. K represents the month. That's alphanumeric. Not alphanumeric, just alphabetic. And it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, they skip I, J, K. So it's A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and so on and so on. So 5K3, 3 represents the week. So it would be the 3rd week of that month. So 5K3 translates to 1985, October week 3, or November week 3.
Johnny, would you say I am into chip date codes?
I would say you are. I would say you are the foremost wacko about chip date codes.
Okay, so I just learned that they skip I. I'm literally going to my GitHub and fixing this right now. So I have this little date code converter utility that I just use it for myself.
Well, wait, there's more.
Oh,
They don't always skip I. If it's a Sony chip, then they don't skip I.
Okay, see, so the point, this is just like a quick reference thing. My idea with this utility was to just type in like any string you have, like whether it's 3 to like 8 characters, whatever you have, and it will try to parse it. So if they don't always skip I, then like maybe forget it. But I'm probably going to set it up to skip I.
Well, the Sony chips are rare. I don't even think there is any NES ones with a Sony chip. I can't think of any offhand, to be honest with you.
What I'm upset about is that you made this thing and then didn't give it to people, Tyler. Why are you hoarding this thing?
Because it's not done. It's another project that's like super in progress. It's like complete garbage. It only works for like Nintendo date code, like a couple Nintendo date codes right now. I basically use it for myself to translate Famicom Disk System date codes because they have a 7-character date code stamped on the front of the disc.
Oh, so the Super Famicom or the Famicom one works perfectly?
No, nothing works perfectly because this is all like spaghetti garbage code. Like if anyone looked at this code, they would be like, "What 3-year-old wrote this?"
I mean, now you could just ask an AI to do it for you, and they'll do it pretty decent.
Oh, right. You could just be like, "Hey, I have this PCB date code or this IC date code. What is it?" And they'll probably give you like all the possibilities of what it could be. Oh man, ChatGPT is really going to take my job. HIJ.
And that's why I'm a janitor / truck driver.
We have committed changes to that date convert. You could go to github.com/defaultgen/date convert if you do want to use my really shitty date converting tool.
Just saying, it's out there.
But I mean, so Joe is bringing up the Matt Mario. So the first Mario cartridge, theoretically, well, not theoretically. I mean, kind of theoretically, because we don't know how the chips were pulled out of the bins. But so there's 3 chips on a Super Mario Brothers. There's the CHR ROM, the program ROM, and the IC code. And all of them, the earliest date that I know is 8539. So that would be the 39th week of 1985. And so I have a couple cartridges where like 2 out of the 3 of them have 8539, and the last chip has like the date code right after the 8539 code. So my holy grail is getting it's like playing the slots. I want to get a cartridge that has all 8539s across all 3 of the chips.
Well, yeah, because if you have 5K1, I mean that's after the October 18th, 1985 release date, so it's physically impossible for that copy of that game to actually been on the shelf before then. So it means it was a reprinted game. So it's not even the first print anymore. It's just the second print of the first variant. Which is why I come back to the fact that the word variant is or print run is a misnomer.
I mean, is that true though? Do we know how those chips were handled and stored though? Like, do we know if they were like what batches they were shipped out? Like, were they put out in order? Like, was this just a backstock of chips that they could have gone and reached for? Like, or how were they loaded at the factory? This is
we don't know that. I mean, there's examples where you could find like a 2-year-old chip in a 2-year-old chip from a game that was released at that time in a game that was reprinted 2 years later. There's many examples like that. But what I'm saying is we have a hard date, October 18th, 1985. Nintendo releases the Nintendo Entertainment System at FAO Schwartz in New York City. This is a hard date that's known in history. So if you have a chip on one of those, if you have a date code that is after that date, there's no possible way that it could have been on shelves for that date.
I'm agreeing with Joe. I don't know what Johnny doesn't understand about this. The chip can't time travel, Johnny.
No, I agree.
Unless you're saying they printed the chips with date codes in the future, which would kind of defeat the purpose of date codes.
Obviously, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying is there's the process is obfuscated, right? So we don't understand exactly what happened. So we can't say that, these are like, yes, those are the first print of those chips, but is that were they always paired with the first print of the box? Were they always like, we're unsure.
So the funny thing is, so I get what you're saying. The funny thing is, so if they had like those 8539 chips just like hanging around in a bin, like someone could have grabbed those at the end of 1986 and just happened to piece together like the perfect cartridge with a bunch of old chips. So it wouldn't technically be the first print, but like that's unknowable. So like,
right. That's an unknowable thing, but the only possible permutation of every possible infinite number of permutations you could have, there's only one possible combination of chips that you could have that would be a October 18th shelf date copy, which would be all 8539s.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing. I'm not saying that wouldn't be very cool to have, and I'm not saying like those like that isn't the coolest thing also, but like when you talk to me again, because one of these chips is a lockout chip. Do we care when the lockout chip was produced?
Yes,
yeah,
in
Johnny,
fact, Tyler has one. Tyler has one.
But why do we care? But it seems to me the chip with the actual program on it is the one we should care about. Like that's the earliest print. Who cares when they made the lockout? That like, are you looking at the date stamps printed in the carts too to make sure you have the oldest cart shell?
Well, yeah, the cart shell should say 1, I think, on there, 1 or 2.
Wait, on the inside of the shell?
Yeah, the F code and the B code that's imprinted onto the shell.
The fuck is an F code and a B code? This is why we talk to Joe.
There are codes printed in the shell which tell you when the shell was made. So
this is like when I learned that like there are like 9 different kinds of Xbox cases.
It's just the mold number. It's just the mold number. They kept track. They had really high quality
injection mold.
Quality control. So they would when you use an injection mold. This goes back into manufacturing stuff that I picked up from my dad because he was an engineer. When you use an injection mold, it decays over time. It gets worn out. So you have to make more You have to make more of these injection molds as you wear them out, as you use them. And what Nintendo would do is they would mark each mold from 1 to like I don't know how far they went up. I maybe if I open up like a 1994 cartridge, I could tell you how far they went up. But every time they would make a new mold, they would mark a number on it. So it starts at 1 and it goes up to all the way to whatever. And obviously the first ones would be labeled like 1, 2, or 3 maybe.
So I realize most people don't care about this stuff, but I just want to point out one interesting part of like eventually like there's going to be like 1 or 2 other crazy guys that start doing the same thing I'm doing if they're not out there already. Just an interesting thing I've picked up as the world's probably in the past 2 years foremost buyer of Super Mario Brothers cartridges. Like I have bought over 100 Super Mario Brothers just hunting date codes at this point. And Super Mario Brothers, like not a super cheap game. They're like $20 a cartridge. But like even trying to hunt the earliest stuff, like I'm looking for the earliest variant. I'm looking at the label on the back. I'm trying to find like the early imprint code so I don't buy like stuff I know is garbage. I could see in like fall of 1986, all of a sudden, all of the Super Mario Brothers cartridges were made. And I realized that's because there was the test market, whatever, the quote unquote test market, and then the official release. And like, we have that story, but when you look at the date codes on the chips and you open 150 Super Mario Brothers cartridges and like 90% of them came out in fall of 1986, it's like, oh, that's when like the NES must have really hit it big. It's just like a cool thing to like see in your hands. I don't know. I'm not saying maybe you shouldn't buy 150 copies of the same game just to be like, oh, this game got popular in fall of 1986. But it is a cool thing to see. Like, don't do that with Super Mario Brothers. But if you like start looking into these things that no one cares about, you can get these data points that aren't really out there. Like I'm eventually going to publish my findings once I find the cartridge I'm looking for.
That's what I'm so happy you're bringing up too, because I mean, the date codes is sort of like the key to a lot of questions that people are asking. And then there's a lot of questions that are in there that nobody's asking yet that should be asked. Like, when was most of this stuff made? What is the bell curve look like for the lifespan of an actual game?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff would be super interesting, especially because like, people make this stuff, people act like Little Samson, like on one day in 1992, there was a factory that pumped out 10,000 of them and then they shut down. But like, that is clearly not how things work.
Right. Like even like one of my favorite variants, the N7 Tecmo NBA basketball that you love to hate on. That has 2 known print dates. There's 2 confirmed print runs of that game. And that's considered like a super rare holy grail of like untouchable variant.
Untouchable. How much did you pay for yours?
$20.
Yeah.
Yeah, untouchable because no one cares. That's the beauty of this. Like, the only people who care about this are wackos. And, like, to understand the level of wacko, like, we just talked about that injection molding and just, like, mold letter printing on the inside of these carts. And I just know that now Tyler's got a job in front of him for the rest of the day when we're done here, which excites me.
See, I gotta find my PCB first. Like, Johnny, I have so many copies of Super Mario Brothers. I guarantee I've got the one injection molded one.
Do you?
I don't know. See, if it's that rare, then it's like, fuck.
Have you documented which mold came with which PCBs? What are you even doing with your life?
No, I gotta reopen everything at this point. So I wasn't documenting the CEC or the CIC chip because like all of them were 8539. And then I found the cartridge that had 2 8539s and then the CIC chip was wrong. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta reopen like 75 cartridges and document the CIC date code as well.
Yeah, see, that's right. That's why you got to document everything at once and do it right the first time.
I know. I fucked up.
And then you never have to do it again. That's my problem. That's my problem with why I can't have a project running is because I don't want to do everything all over again.
So, Tyler, have you considered just lifting out the proper CIC chip and just soldering it in yourself and being a cheater?
No, because you could tell the difference between machine soldered and hand soldered stuff.
Yes, of course you can. It's a joke, Tyler. Obviously, that would be...
I do have that hand-soldered Super Mario Brothers that came with EEPROMs for some reason. That's
pretty
probably
cool.
The best thing I found hunting date codes.
I mean, you might have the holiest of holy grails, to be honest, and Frank Cifaldi just won't say it.
Yeah, Frank Cifaldi's a jerk. He just wanted me to like send it to him or something. No, he wasn't even interested. He didn't even want it. He was just like, this is garbage, whatever. Some collector will probably pay a lot of money for it, though. I'm like, oh, great. I'm the collector, Frank.
Yeah. It's me. I'm the guy who would pay a lot of money for it. Damn.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny, though, like, because that guy, like, what he says is basically the Bible. And if he said, whether it is or isn't, what he says it is what it is.
It's true.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I know that's the case. Like, no matter what, I mean, we're not going to find anything out about this cartridge. To be clear, if anyone doesn't know, I have a Super Mario Brothers. It's the earliest print of the cartridge. There's no stamp on the back. So on the back warning label, there's no stamp on it. And the EEPROMs of the ROMs of the cartridges are EEPROMs, which are erasable chips. And they were clearly soldered by hand. And the problem with the cartridge is the CIC chip it's like the second date code for the CIC chip. So it's not the earliest thing. If it had the earliest CIC chip, this would be like, holy shit, what did I find? And I could have hand soldered in the earliest CIC chip because the rest of it's hand soldered anyway. But like, obviously I'm not going to fucking do that. But yeah, so I sent it to Frank. I'm like, Frank, you're the prototype guy. What is this? And he's like, I don't know, maybe like a review copy or a repair or something. But since it's not the earliest CIC chip, it's probably garbage. And so that's kind of the word, because Frank, like, when you send a prototype to WADA, they send it to Frank, and they're like, Frank, what is this? You're the guy.
Yep, that's how it works. All right, we were talking about screw variants, and then we went down this hole again.
Because we wanted to talk about date code.
Well,
you get me and Joe together. We're going to talk about Satchin games and date codes, Johnny.
Look, I'm not mad. What you keep lashing out at me like you assume I'm mad about this. You're so worried about the content for the 5 people. You're like, you're not even worried about those 5 people. You're worried that I'm going to be upset that these 5 people listening are going to be upset, which is weird to me. I haven't said one thing about it.
I mean, how much can we really say about the screw variants that, you know, the 5 people haven't already heard about?
No, I just wanted to bring them up that they exist, and then I wanted to move on to a different variant type.
Well, how about sticker variants, and not the black box sticker variants?
Oh, the good type. Stuff.
All right. Well, tell us what those are. Tell us what you mean. I should say.
So, if you look at the back of pretty much every NES game, on the back of the box, there'll be a little thing that says "Made in Japan" somewhere on the box, usually near the bottom quarter of the box. In the early days of the NES, a couple publishers was negligent, and they forgot to add "Made in Japan" on the back of their boxes for the first print runs of their games.
Those bitches.
Yep, those total dumbasses. They totally forgot. They ruined all of Nintendo's quality control. But actually, I think that's sort of a legal thing that they actually have to have "Made in Japan" somewhere on there.
It's for. I mean, we don't need to go into too much, but yeah, for distribution, you have to have that labeled, or customs will ding the shit out of you, and it costs you a bunch of money in fines.
Right. So it was Capcom, Tecmo, and I think Konami did one too, that they forgot to put "Made in Japan" on the back, and then on a later print run, they would correct it. And they would print it on the box. There's also an intermediate variant in between then, which is they would get this little tiny sticker and adhere it to the box, and then have it sealed, factory sealed, H-seam and everything. And there's a few of these games very early. These are all late 1986 and spring 1987. And how many are there on my list? I have.
How did multiple companies fuck this up? Like, I would understand if there's like a bunch of early Konami games, but like multiple people had to do this. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's 3 companies: Tecmo, Capcom, and Konami, and they all made the same mistake. And they didn't make the mistake on other previous games, which is sort of just weird. It's just sort of like a graphic designer just not doing their job. And there's 9 games that I know of that have this error. So it's 1942, Commando, Ghost and Goblins, Gradius, Trojan, Mighty Bomb Jack, Rygar, Section Z, and Solomon's Key. If you look on the back of the box, you know you have the good one when it doesn't say "Made in Japan," but you know you have the second best one when you have a shiny silver sticker that says "Made in Japan" on it.
So wait, you're saying the sticker is worse? So this is one of those situations where like the quote unquote second print is just a first print with some bonus material. So wouldn't
there's some evidence that it is a second print run, I guess you could say. And the evidence is that there's certain maps in the Tecmo games that are only found as map posters in the second prints, and then just regular plain posters in the first prints. Like I think it's Mighty Bomb Jack that the first print run comes with an actual poster of Mighty Bomb Jack, and then the second print run comes with a sort of like a map poster.
I need to get a copy of Ghost and Goblins here, so I want the one that doesn't say "Made in Japan" like at all.
Yeah, the one that doesn't say "Made in Japan" at all, that would be the original first print run. And these are major variants of a hang tab game.
Is this rare?
See, you say major, and I wouldn't classify that as a major variant.
I classify. Well, here's my classification. Major is anything you could identify from a factory sealed copy.
Okay.
Meaning it could be incredibly tiny. I mean, I have one example that's like so minute that it shouldn't even be considered a variant. But I still classify it as major because you could identify it from the outside of a factory sealed copy. Then I consider a minor variant anything that you could identify by opening the seal.
Yeah, see.
So that's sort of my classification.
And what about opening the cartridge?
Opening the cartridge, that's like a micro variant. I would consider that like its own thing altogether, because that's like an extra layer of work.
All right.
So my Ghost and Goblins, it does indeed. It's a hang tab. It says "Made in Japan" on the top of the cartridge, on top of the box, not the back. So would those stickers be on the top of the box?
No, they would be in the back. They would be in the back on the bottom quarter somewhere.
So what the hell do I have then? So hold on, I'm going to find just a later print copy of the game. Because no, I'm looking at I'm looking at just random ones on eBay. I don't see made in Japan on the back. And so you got me in, whatever, it's after dark, but like you got me interested in this variant. I've known there's like cool variants where they like put stickers to correct things. Like there's seal of quality stickers where they have like it's a round seal of quality and they put the oval seal of quality sticker over on top of that.
I finally got me one of those too. I forget what it was. Was it a Gogol 13, I think?
You got it was like a Golgo 13 and you like paid nothing for it. And now you have the two coolest Golgo 13 things, Joe. So while I research Ghosts and Goblins, explain your Golgo 13s.
Okay, so Golgo 13. It's actually a really interesting game, really fun. It has one of the only adult scenes too in an NES game, licensed at that. I don't even know what to classify it as a genre because it like has like so many mixed genres going on. It's like a action platformer, not platformer. It's just an action game, and then turns into like a first person thing. And I'm making it sound like it's so great, but it's still like a shitty 8-bit NES game.
Well, you didn't call it a Metroid Primevania, so you've already done it wrong.
But that game in particular comes with a lot of weird variants. You have the generic circle seal and then later oval seal variant, which everybody pretty much knows. And then Vic Tokai themselves, the publisher of the game, they packaged it into. They packed it with the American release of the comic book of Golgo 13, which is I think it's one of the first American published mangas or manga. I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, but they packaged it and it says in big bold letters in white with a blue label, and it's inside like a plastic baggie. You get the factory sealed copy of the game, comic book, and then it's all in this baggie with a big blue label that says Golgo Mania Pack. And there's two variants of those. It comes in also the circle and oval seal. And then sometime in between then, they also had a second variant, which is they'd take the circle seal of the game, and the retailers would want to update, I guess, their inventory. I think it would be the retailers that are doing this. They would take a sticker and they would put it on top of the circle seal to make it look like it's an oval seal. And this is on the front of the plastic, so it's above the plastic, so you can peel it off if you want.
As you should.
Right. Of course you should. Of course you should. No, I wouldn't do that. That's horror. I can't imagine doing that. Turning into a shitty variant? No way.
It's like No Country for Old Men. Then it just turns into a regular coin, which it is. Yeah, I love that stuff, especially the Golgo Mania pack, because you sold that to like Jason Broussard for like $100 or $200 in like 2010 or something.
Yeah, and I regretted it the day I sold it, to be honest with you. And
so dumb.
It took me years to find it again.
There's not very many examples of like, air quotes, special editions on the NES, and you had one and then you sold it. So, like, what a weird choice.
Well, yeah, and speaking of special editions, there's another one for MC Kids or Mick Kids. There's a version of that game that comes with a VHS tape, which I can't remember what it is now, but it's the McDonald's cartoon that the people that made all the Nickelodeon cartoons in the 90s, Klasky Kasupo or something like that.
Yeah.
They made a McDonald's cartoon, and then I guess I have no idea where this variant came from, but I guess certain McDonald's stores or restaurants would sell this game bundled with the VHS tape.
Okay, so I've been doing research on VHS bundles because I'm a wacko in my own right. And do we have any confirmation that McDonald's sold it? Because what happens is a lot of dead stock stores were getting, they would get VHSs and games, and then they would bundle them together. And that's why, I was just talking about this. So this is why you'll suddenly see, like a UPC on the front of some games, and why there will sometimes be a white sticker or an X over the UPC on the back of some game boxes. And that was because they didn't create a not for resale version, because it wasn't actually a not for resale version printed and created for a specific entity like McDonald's. It was a resale copy that these people were bundling together to then sell as a bundle, to get stuff out the door.
Right. I never thought about that. Yeah, that makes more sense, to be honest with you.
So yeah, only because I'm a wacko and I've been looking into this. I've been doing a deep dive on The Adventures of Mighty Max. Very exciting.
Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it if that's most likely what happened. But it is a weird thing that's out there. There is a VHS version of the MC Kids. It's basically just
MC Kids. It's just Mick Kids. Like, what are we doing here?
It's got the abbreviations.
I know
it's M.C. No second dot though.
Yeah,
so
I know. It's a weird thing, but it's Mick Kids. Like, what are we doing?
Well, yeah. It's Mick Kids. So
also, it's like, I don't know how this game gets a pass, but it's like one of the worst covers on the NES.
It's a good game though.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's an okay game.
It's like, McDonald's games have a legacy of like being okay. We're not like, and you would expect them just to be straight rubbish, but it's not in that vein. Anyways, do you have pictures of this? I'm just curious.
I do have a photo of it in my hard drive right now.
Okay.
But the thing is, I'm using my earphones as my microphone right now. Tyler convinced me not to buy a fancy mic. And I only have one USB port in the front of my PC. So if I swap it out, I'm going to...
I don't want you to do this live. I'm just talking about later. Will you send me a picture of it so I can see it?
Yeah, I have it. And then there's another special edition, too, of the game. It's the... I can't remember the title right now. Vegas Dream. I was going to say Vegas Stakes, but that's Super Nintendo. Vegas Dream has a Las Vegas coupon bundle. They basically sealed a package of coupons for Las Vegas for various hotels and casinos and stuff like that. And it's just slapped on the back of the box, and then they factory sealed it in there. And then they put a bright lime green sticker on the front that says "valuable coupon offer," and you could just it's not super rare. I mean, I have two of them just laying around here, one open and one sealed still, and it's another weird bundle variant like that.
That is weird.
And I see them once a year. They pop up on eBay, so they're not super rare.
Not super rare. Okay. I don't know if I've ever seen that, actually.
Yeah,
I'll send you a picture of that one too.
I'm seeing one right now. There's one on eBay right now. If you want to make an offer, guys, it's someone's got it for $240 or best offer.
Sealed,
yeah.
That sounds like such a cool thing. Like who has that?
Yeah, no,
you pretty much have to have it sealed, or else you're not going to find the coupon book that comes with it.
Yeah,
but you said you have one that's not sealed.
Well, yeah, because I opened it.
He probably cut the cello at the top to look at the contents inside.
Johnny, I don't see this one on eBay.
Good.
Oh, there it is. See, I didn't see it because I expected to sort by highest, and it would be the highest.
No, it's not the highest. It's high compared to other Vegas Dreams, but it's not.
What? $249? That's like a decent, like, nice, like, uncommon NES game. And you get a sealed, weird variant that, like, who even knows this exists besides the weirdo NES people? For $240, I think that's a deal. Pick of the show.
It's not a show. It's an After Dark.
Pick of the show.
Yeah, I may have made an offer on it already. Hopefully they take my offer.
Joe, you're more... I used to have a list of who everyone is. Do you know who Discount Games is on eBay?
Discount Games. I have a vague idea, but my brain is also connecting it to CIB Wholesale or something like that. So
okay, I wish people just use the same names everywhere. Like, I mean, you're buying from me when you're buying Default Gen on eBay, and then I'm going to pack it nicely.
Yeah, people with their name changes, they're total jerks.
Anyway, if you don't know, Joe, the Fleo, the VG Lobby, Power Players, as you might know him. What else have you gone by?
Just my full name, Joseph Leo.
Joseph Leo, which is just too long. We're not even willing to say Joseph here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I like that. Also, I just want to go back to Ghost and Goblins. I'm not sure that there's any copy that doesn't say Made in Japan on the top, but the earliest hang tab one definitely doesn't say Made in Japan on the back. So there's at least 2 hang tab ones I saw. One says Made in Japan, one doesn't. And then the flat back one doesn't say Made in Japan, obviously. I didn't see any stickers. So I'm still saying sticker one, probably the coolest one.
The stickers seem to be harder to find.
Yeah.
So,
also, I figured out that my Ghost and Goblin is missing the sombrero, which I've never collected nice hang tabs. Like once I moved into Complete in Box and like started getting nice stuff, just like the past few years, NES hang tab games were not what I was buying. So all my hang tabs are probably fucked up. So I don't know, either one of you guys, I need like a really nice Ghost and Goblins. Also, I think Joe sent me a really nice Castlevania. Thank you, Joe. I didn't open my mail yet, if that's at my house.
no, it's definitely not. I literally just got home from my vacation. So,
Oh, okay. Like, do I need to start upgrading my hang tabs?
No,
Is this something I should care about?
Stop it. No. Who cares?
But like Castlevania, I think is top 10 NES game.
You're not selling them, so it doesn't matter. And you're not grading them, so it doesn't matter.
I know, but like I'm still a collector. I still care a little bit about condition.
if you're not going to get the nice stuff, then why get it to begin with?
Right? There we go.
To own everything, Joe, shut up. Stop poisoning his mind.
If I was buying stuff today, I wouldn't buy a hang tab missing the sombrero. For anyone listening who doesn't know, the sombrero is a little piece that you would punch out to actually hang it up on something. It looks like a sombrero if you look at it. But like my Ghost and Goblins is missing the sombrero and it's not super nice. And like that's one of my top NES games. I want that to be kind of nice. Castlevania, obviously, I want that to be super nice.
And just for clarification, that is the legal industry term, sombrero. It's not like some sort of like it's not collectory bullshit. It's literally the legal industry term for that little piece that just punches out.
I love it.
All right, we did it. We didn't get it wrong with our questionable maybe term that implies a race that maybe we shouldn't. We're good.
Maybe
We're
they
fine.
invented this term in the 60s. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Not something we're gonna start caring about right now. Just call it sombrero because everyone knows what you're talking about if you say that.
So since we're on weird sticker variants, there's a ton of other weird sticker variants. Let's see here. HAL or HAL, however you want to say
Laboratories?
it. HAL Laboratories. They have a bunch of sticker variants as well. If you look on the back of the box, for some reason they have the wrong UPC printed on a lot of their boxes. So they'll go in and correct it with a label. It's just like the Sonic 2 stuff, Tyler. Or not Sonic 2, Sonic 1 for Sega Master System. They'll put a sticker on the back on top of the UPC and then factory seal it and ship it out the door. A whole bunch of their games have it, like Millipede, I think. Why is my brain drawing a blank right now?
Tell me you've peeled one up and you've scanned the UPC to see what game comes up.
I haven't. I'm too scared to. But I think it's actually just a different UPC format. I think it's a UPC and I can't remember the other format. But yeah, I think it's just they changed the barcode standard basically in between print runs. And the 4 that I know of is Defender 2, Joust, Millipede, and Air Fortress. And those are the 4 that I know of.
Oh shit, I kind of want an Air Fortress then. I like Air Fortress a lot. Air Fortress, best deal in NES game, like $30 complete in box. That game's so cool. Let me get my Air Fortress.
All right, we're doing it live. Tyler's going.
God damn it, no sticker. What else?
Air Fortress, Millipede, Joust, and Defender 2.
Some high quality games.
Come on, don't you diss Joust over there?
Joust sucks.
Joust is my favorite balloon fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just a worse balloon fight. I was already going there, Joe.
All right, I don't have anything else within arm's distance. Oh, well. But I do like this. Just Joe telling me about cool stuff, then I run to my shelf and see if I have the cool one, which has been the best part since 2019. Because like a lot of us already have these games, and then like all of a sudden people start talking about like some weird variant, and it's like, oh, do I have it already? And like, is this why if there's like a 20-year-old, is this why like they don't collect NES because like they'll never have the cool stuff serendipitously, but all of us are just like, oh well, I already have 200 complete box Nintendo games. Let me check my millipede because I've just been picking random garbage up at garage sales. Maybe some of this is the cool stuff.
Exactly. You don't know what you have until like, everybody's looking at it under a microscope.
I mean, more of my predictions. This is what I said after like grading started and everyone started to do this, is that we would just get more information about weird variants that would just start to fall into collector laps to see what the cool stuff is. And here we are.
Yeah.
Tyler running.
And then we have a couple other weird sticker variants. There's the stuff like Power Pad games or anything that uses a NES accessory for the game itself. Nintendo would sometimes affix a big red sticker for that accessory. They'd put it right on top of the plastic so you could peel it off. And it would be like light gun required or power pad required. And they're pretty uncommon actually. And then or even the 1 to 4 player thing. They have a sticker. I just picked up one for what game is this? It literally came in yesterday. 1 to 4 players. It's a big purple and red sticker for Danny Sullivan's Indie Heat. I just picked it up. It's got the cellophane and everything on it. And let me see. Is the sticker on top of the cellophane or not? Sticker is on top of the cellophane on this one.
Nice.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So you have a complete box one with the cello?
Mm-hmm. And with the big ass sticker on it.
That is awesome.
Okay. I've got a big ass sticker question. Tell me if you know this one. Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, the full title that no one ever uses. Have you seen the one that's got the big yellow sticker on it that says, like, cartridge uses game key?
Cartridge uses game key is the Sachin thing, no? That I just brought up earlier.
Yes.
That would probably be someone importing it into a 60-pin region that would require a game key to actually.
It's a U.S.
Play
it's a U.S. copy. It's sealed. Okay.
Well, yeah. That's the way Sachin would sell these game keys under various different names too. Like there's 10 different names for the game key.
Yep.
But they would sell these game keys around the world with 60-pin regions, in 60-pin regions, and they would, I guess, import other games from other regions and then just slap that big sticker on there.
Yeah,
but I never seen Jackie Chan specifically with it, but I've seen other games with it.
There you go. I put one in the chat. You guys can look at.
Yeah, we're talking about the Jitsi chat because I'm the guy who makes us use Jitsi.
Oh, there you go.
American cartridges use game key. This is also from Discount Games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would let's see look in the back. You could see another sticker. Notice Francois. So this was probably imported to France. So all right. So yes, the game key was in France. So this would allow you to play NTSC cartridges in a PAL-B system.
Interesting.
So yeah, you would need the game key or any lockout defeater. Basically, you would need to play American games in a different region.
Cool. So yeah, this is one that was imported elsewhere.
Yeah, and obviously, just judging by the back, it would be imported to France.
Pretty cool. It's interesting that these things exist.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff like this out there. And I don't know what to classify this kind of stuff, but this sort of bleeds into the unlicensed territory. Like, if you look at a lot of Color Dream games, the desirable ones are the black cartridges. But a lot of those black cartridges, they only have PAL versions. But a lot of American collectors sort of collected them just because they want to fill in their sets And this was early Nintendo age days. This is not modern stuff. Nobody cares about unlicensed anymore, period, let alone the variants.
Fucking crazy, but yeah, you're correct.
But yeah, a lot of those black cartridges have import versions. Or not import versions, but just international versions that American collectors would bring here and say, yeah, I got the black version of this game, even though it doesn't exist.
And now we know, since it's PAL, we shouldn't care about those Color Dreams variants, as if anyone cares about Color Dreams variants anymore.
This is the first time Color Dreams has been said in like the past 10 years, actually.
Right? What happened to Unlicensed? It fell off so hard. I just brought this up on Video Game Stage the other day. So we recently had a Loose Stadium events, a Mahjong, and, a couple years ago there was the sealed hot slots, I think it was. And the Loose Stadium events sold for like 2 or 3 times what the sealed hot slots went for, and then Mahjong was in the middle. So there's a super rare sealed game, the rarest of these 3, sealed, sells for the lowest price. This second rarest, in like mid condition with the box, middle price, and then the loose licensed game, that's the most common, sells for the highest price. So, I mean, I understand, like, people want, like, the rarity isn't everything, but like, of the high-end Nintendo stuff, just like the unlicensed stuff has fallen off a cliff comparatively.
Well, it comes back full circle to my 3-dimensional hype, price, and rarity thing that I proposed on Video Game Stage.
Explain this to Johnny, because Joe made a supply-demand curve and then added like 2 or 3 more dimensions, or like 2 dimensions more to it. I don't know what was happening there.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I bet if you plot out every game basically where they sit on 3 different categories for current price, current hype, which is basically just mentions on the internet in so and so many days, and then
I saw this
perceived rarity. I bet if you map everything on this 3-dimensional graph, I guess a membrane graph is what you would call it. I'm not sure what they're called. I bet there would be some nice, convenient, explainable peaks and valleys in a 3D membrane like that.
Possibly, yeah.
I think it should just be a supply-demand curve. But whatever.
No, it's definitely more than that, because there's no supply for Mahjong. And there's
no supply, there's some demand, so the price becomes some point.
Right, but it should be there's a lot of demand, I think, for Mahjong.
But that's not how supply and demand works. When there's zero or incredibly limited supply of games or collectible objects, that's not how the supply demand curve works. So if an object has any demand or any hype behind it, or like any kind of knowledge, like say your Mahjong, like someone's not going to go and look at a supply demand curve and be like, okay, well, there's no supply and there's some medium demand, so it should command a medium price. What they're going to do is say there's no supply, so the price should be at the highest point of the curve, because if you want one, you have to pay me to get it. So it I
don't think economists are agreeing with this interpretation of supply and demand curves. Like, demand is not a measurable thing. Like, if 2 people want one, like how much they want it.
I mean, demand is measurable. Like those
demand.
Jobs are called, there's lots of jobs called demand planning.
But like not for markets where like 6 people are interested in an object.
That's why I started the whole conversation with the caveat of with collectibles, not in regular markets. So,
all right. So back on point to weird variants. We're climbing out of the abyss that was Sachin, and we're sort of climbing uphill now into more reasonable territories.
Yep.
And now I want to circle back to that ultra minor variant that I mentioned earlier. That shouldn't really even be considered a variant, how small it is, but I still consider it a major variant just by my technicalities. And that is Roger Clemens MLB baseball.
Okay.
The game all the collectors are looking for.
Exactly. There are 2 very, very, very minor variants for this game. And it is the seal of quality is our seal of quality, which is already a minor thing in itself, but it's a registered trademark variant. And on one box,
as opposed to having a little TM after the seal of quality.
No. This is they're both registered trademarks. They're both R's, except the size of the R next to the seal of quality is incredibly tiny versus very tiny. And what this tells you is it tells you which cartridge you have on the inside, because Roger Clemens MVP Baseball has 2 cartridge variants. It has the one with the white label and then the one without. So depending on which box you have, you could determine what cartridges is inside.
I don't like it.
And it's incredibly tiny. I mean, it's comparing like a 0.5 millimeter to 1 millimeter. And I consider that a major variant.
I like it. I think you need to have like objective criteria. Like if it's on the fucking box, like we count that as a certain kind of variant, because anything else is like subjective. Like you're going to say like, oh, if the variant doesn't fit inside a square centimeter, then it can't count as a major variant. Like forget that. Just
that
if it's
would
on
be
the
rigid
box,
standards.
major variant. I like it. Or just don't use the terms major, minor, micro, whatever. Like say it's like a box variant, but like I like how it's objective.
But then see, if you use terminology like box variant, then you got to include that flap code, which is very different.
Oh, yeah, you can't see those from the outside of the box. So
and then you got the bottom left flap, which is also another layer, which is like from 1 through 8, I think it goes to.
Oh, don't talk about the secret variants now. I mean, we're already talking about the secret variants, but yes. Tell us about those codes.
So that goes again back to production and I think quality control. And I believe those are just when you print out these boxes, you're not printing out one box at a time. These come out on big giant sheets. And during quality control, you're going to want to, if you spot a mistake, you're going to want to see where on the plate the mistake was made really quickly. You're not going to want to look at the same spot on all 8 boxes that are on this one sheet. So you're just going to look at that number. And then you're going to know, oh, the error is on section number 8. So let's spot it there and correct the mistake. And these boxes, when they're printed, the flap gets folded, so you don't even see that number anymore. And even collectors won't see it because nobody unfolds their boxes. So it's sort of like a hidden variant.
So it's on the bottom box flap, but you have to disassemble the box to see the number, which is the best.
And nobody's going to do that.
No, you should definitely do it. You should definitely take everything out of your box and then push in on those tabs and like really fuck up those creases and really damage those folds and get your box nice and loose. And then, do the pressure damage of pushing them back together. As someone who has assembled a lot of NES boxes in their time, not advised.
Well, if you use a spudger, it's called, you won't damage your stuff that badly. That
badly being the words I'm choosing to pick out of this statement.
So I really love this stuff because this is like how it gets into like if you're Joe and you need to buy 1,000 NES games, 1,000 different NES games, and you want to get all the variants, like you can't go super deep into one thing. But say you're me, and like all I care about on NES is Ninja Gaiden, and so I finally got my Ninja Gaiden, like the first date code. There's like 10 different Ninja Gaiden date codes on the box, and I got the first one, and so now. If, like, I don't want the journey to be over, I could be like, I could get the first date code and I can get the 1 on the bottom of the box. And no one is going to disassemble boxes for me on eBay to check this.
You don't need the 1. You need all 8 to get the full sheet.
I could get all 8. So this is where it comes into, like, if I'm just collecting Ninja Gaiden, like, say there's 10 date codes and 8 bottom codes. So there's 80, I'm going to call them major box variants. Alone, before we even get into like other like we're not talking about Made in Japan and all that shit. We're just talking about like 80 Ninja Gaiden variants of boxes alone for a game that technically has quote unquote no variants. And then you can get into the chip date codes, and you can get to the permutations of chip date codes. And you don't have to collect every single copy of Ninja Gaiden that's ever been produced, but there are likely dozens or hundreds of different ways to collect one game. If it's all you want to collect and you just want to get everything. If you want to, like Braveheart did it with Black Box, that's impossible now. It's too expensive. It still would be expensive to do it for an NES game, but like, I don't know, if you've got a Sega Genesis game that's like, man, I really love Sonic the Hedgehog 2. That's a $20 game now. It should be an $8 game, but whatever. You can collect literally 200 different versions of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 if you really just want to get into it. I love it. I love it. I'm sorry, Joe, that you have too many games to collect to do that for any one game.
I don't have to collect them all. I just have to document them all.
See, that's a hard, that thing where like I could just appreciate that this exists without owning it. That's a hard thing for me to come to terms with a lot, which I am trying to do more often. Once I know something exists, especially if I know it exists and no one cares about it, like these bottom flap codes, I'm like, oh man, like should I start like going for like the cool ones? As if there's a cool one of like having a random number one.
Well, yeah, there is no cool one because like nobody even acknowledges that that's even a thing. Like the number on the bottom flap, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. It's sort of like the way the date codes were 10 years ago. Like don't pay attention to those 5 digits. Nobody knows what that is. That's a mysterious thing. It's enigmatic. Just ignore it. And then now we know that's how you tell what's the most important variant you have.
And like some people thought the lowest number was the best one to have, which wasn't correct in that case because the lowest number indicated for Super Mario Brothers 3, the lowest number was 1990 and the higher number was 1989.
Yeah, if you actually go on WADA's early Facebook profile, they actually list the 3 date codes for the Left Bros for Mario 3, and they say that the latest version, the 1990 version, is what they think is the true first print, which was the total opposite.
Yeah.
And we could thank Defcode on VGS for figuring out that, hey, these are date codes.
I mean, Defcode of the Collector's Quest fame as well. So WADA has made kind of these judgment calls where like, either if it's too deep for the average person to care, like date codes on boxes, or like whether if it's just too deep or they don't want to put in the work to one, document them all, or to have their little like box grabbers like learn all this stuff, because their box grabbers already have to like learn like I'm sure they have this huge database of like, you have to look for the Made in Japan here, you have to look for the tiny little TM and R here, so you get the variant right. Because I'm sure like WADA does not employ like video game experts for $50 an hour to put together their grading service. They're probably paying people like $18 an hour to rummage through these boxes. So they have to learn by looking at a database. So the more random, tiny, minuscule shit you give them to look at, the slower they're going to work, which is why I don't think...
I could tell you what CGC was going to offer me.
But you weren't going to be a guy that was actually like looking at and packing boxes. You were going to be a researcher that was creating.
Well, yeah, just a researcher.
Didn't you say you couldn't go there because you wouldn't move to Florida?
No, I wouldn't move to California.
Oh.
I can't talk about that though. So
I could talk. I wouldn't move to Florida.
Well, I moved here because I'm always on the road, as you know, and my family lives here, and I have an autistic son, and we need a lot of help with him. So my wife needs a lot of help with him when I'm not home. So I moved here to be closer with family while I go on the road for 30 days at a time.
How dare you love your family enough to move for them?
And we was really comfortable back in New Jersey, but I had to do what I had to do. So
you're such a stereotype, Joe, loving your family and also being a guy from New Jersey or New York who moves to Florida. Come on.
I'm definitely a living stereotype in that regards, and I own it completely.
All right.
And I play into it really hard. Like I lean into the whole Jersey culture and everything.
That's funny. You put Jersey and culture in the same sentence.
Come on.
They got pork roll there. Come on.
Gross.
Gross. I'm literally staring at a pork roll sandwich. I got to take a picture and send it to you.
No, one of the not quite rivaling my hatred of mayo is my hatred of pork.
I think you want to resign your topic there.
Look, I can talk about it and put myself on a 5-minute ban. That's fine.
Okay.
Joe, the only person on the CQ Discord who has ever received a timeout.
Twice.
Did I escalate the second one? Because it escalates. I think I gave you a 1 minute and then a 5 minute.
Yeah, the first one was 1 minute, and then now I'm up to 5
it's
minutes.
Up to a 5. But it doesn't automatically go to the next zone. I think you got a couple of 5 minutes. I haven't officially written what my punishment structure is because I never thought I would need it, Joe.
I'll be sure to push the limits again. So
it's going to be you and Tiger Wolf. Like Tiger Wolf is next on the ban list. For what he's going to get a 1 minute restriction. He better watch out.
We're gonna start banning AI stuff, and he's gonna be like, "No, what do I post?
Yeah,
my cool AI shit."
Well, it's funny because there's a rule in our rules which says don't talk about mayo. It's rule number 5,
which I don't understand. I mean, mayo is great.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Put that on your pork roll.
You're wrong and gross, and that's fine. But you're from New Jersey, so you already knew you were both wrong and gross to begin with.
Hey, don't talk about my New Jersey brethren like that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you from Jersey as well?
If anyone's going to disparage New Jersey, it's going to be me.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, this is a weird episode of CQ. Guy from New York stands up for someone from New Jersey? That's weird.
These fucking California elites. Although now Joe lives in Florida, so I'm not standing up for him.
Okay, good. Let's move back to video game variants and stop talking about mayo, because gross. And pork roll. Yuck.
All right, well, back to video
sticker variants
video
is where we
variants.
were, and like weird bottom flap variants.
Yes, so sticker variants. There's a couple more. I mean, you have stuff like Bram Stoker's Dracula. It has a Sony sticker on there. I forget what it says, and I don't want to plug in my hard drive right now. There's stuff like that. There's the T-shirt sticker offer for Platoon. It's like a big white sticker with red letters on it, and it just says a free promo offer for T-shirt or something like that.
Is that a cellophane only sticker or on the box?
Yeah, cellophane only. Can I think of any more real quick? Let me see here.
I've got one. There's one on the Mega Man box that says something about Captain Commando.
Well, yeah, there's those stickers too. The Capcom offer stickers. I realize we're talking about like the cool shit that like people don't know about, but like there's also some more common ones. Well, yeah, and then you have you have something like is it Mario is Missing? Yeah, Mario is Missing. They have a sticker version that has the same logo that's on Mario's Time Machine. There's a little logo on Mario's Time Machine that says damn it, why can't I remember? I usually keep this stuff in my head, and just for this episode or this After Dark thing, I can't remember shit right now. But yeah, there's a sticker version of Mario is Missing as well. So they have three variants for Mario is Missing. There's the one without the banner, the one with the banner, and then the one in between where it's without the banner, but they add a sticker in its place.
That's weird.
Yeah. As far as other weird sticker variants, I mean, you got the 4-player stickers where it's like the games that have 4 players. But I think I brought that up with the variants that have accessories and stuff like that. And I think that's pretty much as far as it goes for sticker variants that are not the cool sticker variants, like the first print black box stuff. And
tell us a little about that
Capcom stuff.
Might as well give a brief rundown on that. Go ahead. Tell us cool sticker variants, and also matte stickers aren't cool. Just or gloss. That's boring.
I mean, those are the only cool sticker variants other than the Capcom stuff. So for the Capcom stuff, you have, let's see here, sort A to Z, scroll down to Capcom. Okay. So early in the Capcom library, you would have these first 7 games that they released, which are 1942, Commando, Ghosts and Goblins, Trojan, Section Z, Mega Man, and Gunsmoke. They would come with stickers on the front of the box that say either it's just a regular coupon or it would be just some sort of other watch offer or something like that for the later games. And they would put these stickers on the box. They're big blue circular stickers at in the middle near the bottom of the box on the front. And these 7 games have these 2 different stickers. You got to read them all because they are different stickers. And later on, they would remove these, but these stickers are how you determine a first print of a first variant of these games.
All right.
So that's pretty much as far as you could go with sticker variants, other than those black box boring stuff that you don't want to talk about.
I mean, you can tell people a quick rundown of what matte versus glossy is. I think most people here would know by now, but you can just say.
Well, yeah, for the NES launch in 1985, I mean, the 17 launch titles that they had came with matte stickers. And then in 1986, later on, they had another, what was it? How many other games came out in 86? Another 13 games?
Yeah.
Was it? Or no, not another 13.
The 3 of them not
the last 3 were 1987. It was another 10 games later on. They got the gloss stickers, which are like a metallic feel, and they're a little shinier. The word Nintendo is more silvery, so you could tell easier from like an eBay picture if it's glossy or not. And they would use these stickers to seal the boxes instead of cellophane. I mean, it's not really that fancy. It's just sort of the desirable variant. And there's not really too much to go. There's not really too much to cover other than the fact that the first 27 black boxes had these stickers.
If you peel off a gloss sticker, it leaves a void residue. And if you peel off a matte sticker, it leaves no residue, unless you clean off the void residue so it looks like you had a matte sticker originally.
I like to think about how many people peeled those stickers off to make their boxes look clean.
Oh, definitely some, yeah.
And then like all these weird stickers that like indicate a special print and stuff. Like how many people are just like, ew, stickers on a box, get rid of them. And
I've done that like recently. Like probably the I don't know if the coolest Metroid Prime 2 variant is the Napster sticker one, but like Metroid Prime, one of my favorite games of all time. I wanted a sealed Metroid Prime 2. And I like specifically avoided the Target exclusive Napster sticker one. That's probably the coolest one to own, but I just want like the really clean box art.
I think the Napster one, I think is just on the cellophane.
It is on the cellophane, yeah. But I wanted a sealed
one,
copy.
Yeah. I know.
It's Metroid Prime.
Just saying, it's just on the cellophane though for people.
Yeah, so like no one was going to like remove that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Hey Joe, I have a question. Going back to the Mario is missing. Did Mario Time Machine also get the sticker on it, the Mario Discovery Series, or is that?
Thinking back on it, I think I might be misremembering right now because I think it might be Mario's missing or Mario's Time Machine that I might be talking about.
Well, Mario's Missing has like the version that has the Mario Discovery Series on it.
Right.
I was just wondering if Time Machine also has that.
Yeah, Mario's Time Machine, I'm pretty sure, has that printed on the box. I think
Are they all printed? Were they stickers or are they actually all printed?
I think it's all printed on there. I don't think they have a no Mario Discovery Series print run. I don't think they have that variant for Mario's Time Machine.
All right. So, for you guys who don't know, there's just like it's a little Mario and it says Mario Discovery Series on it. And they used it on the Super Nintendo and Nintendo versions of these games. But on Mario is Missing, there's a version of the box. There's boxes that don't have that on it. But I wasn't sure if it was a sticker or not. I didn't realize it was a print.
All right. So next on my list, I'd like to share is we're still climbing up. We're back into normal territory now, and now we're in just not typos, but just like mistakes on the box on the graphic design side of things. I have a couple things like that. For example, Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. They made a mistake on the address on the back of the box. And on one of the addresses, it says that their address is 5,000, when really the publisher's address is 5016. And I forget the street name and everything, but that's the typo on the back of the box over there for Home Alone 2. And again, remember, this is normal territory stuff now. This is not
normal territory. This is
yeah,
what normal people are
like
looking at?
totally normal.
Yeah,
people
normal
stuff.
people
Like,
are definitely reading the address and being like, you got it wrong. Also, because that is a multi-platform game, like it's on Super Nintendo and Game Boy as well, I wonder if that variant exists across multiple.
Probably, and there's probably a lot more variants like this that
Not
are just
caught.
unnoticed. We have something like Tiny Toon Adventures. If you look at the side of the box, one of the O's in Toons is missing its dot, so it just looks like a big white circle.
Okay, I did not know about this one.
Yeah, so that would be your first print variant. Speaking of side of the boxes, if you look at the warranty on the side of the box, a lot of first party games will have an updated warranty. This is where that star code comes in handy on the flap.
Because it's special and released only by Nintendo as a promo?
Right. Where it's not really a promo. That was just fake news.
I'm leaning into the joke.
Yeah. So they would, what Nintendo would do was they would use the star symbol as just an indication of some sort of legal thing. So that was actually a common practice. I remember in the 90s, like you would use a star or a cross symbol to indicate some sort of legal change. And what they would do is they would update the warranty from 3 lines to 4 lines. And the 4th line would say, for sale and use only in Canada and USA. And then a later version would be Canada, USA, and Mexico. They'd also add a star to the flap of the box. And this is only for very specific criteria. For first-party games that previously had a 3-line warranty. And they would these would be the only games that get the star. And there's even an exception to that one rule, which is Excitebike, they forget to add the star.
Perfect.
So, anything else on my list that I want to share? That's just stuff nobody cares about. People care about those banners and stuff on the boxes, so I can't talk about that.
No, you got a list of all the boxes that have the red banners?
No, I don't have a list of that. I mean, that's something I've always wanted to do. I just never did it.
Yeah.
But I think it's like most boxes, 1992 and onwards.
Yeah, like I want that, but also there's a bunch that got the red banner, but only in Canada. So I want I need the complete list of all the ones because as they were reprinting games, like Final Fantasy got a red banner release in Canada.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, and also Canada still got the sticker seals all the way up until like Super Mario 3, I think it was, or Final Fantasy. I know Final Fantasy has one, and that's a pretty late game. So,
and I mean, so you just talking about like needing this like list of these the red label NES games, which is like a super major set. This is not hard information to find yourself, but there's no source that will just give you a definitive list, and it's so frustrating. The other thing that frustrates me with these kind of lists is like platinum hits and greatest hits games. Wikipedia has these lists and they're fucking wrong. They're all wrong. I don't know where they're getting this information from, but Wikipedia's list of like budget label games is just fucking wrong. And like there needs to be a resource where just like, here are all the greatest hits PlayStation games, or here are all the
bad example. There's a list like that on Game Rave.
Why don't we have a freaking resource yet?
I don't.
That's why I want
I don't know, Tyler. And the answer is because someone with enough knowledge and resources has to do it. And I'm like, should I make that red box list? Like, I could do it. I know how to do it, but I don't.
But like, then you have to host it somewhere and you have to keep it up indefinitely. So
it's like, is it going to be me? Do I have to be the guy? There's better guys to do it. There's people who are more involved with the NES than me, Joe. That could definitely do a better job. Or a faster job, I should say. So I always weigh those things. And I think the problem is, Tyler, that there's a ton of us a ton, probably 14, 15 people who are all sitting around lamenting the same thing that aren't working
I'm
together.
lamenting it, but I'm not saying
You definitely just lamented.
I'm going to ever be the one to do it.
You were lamenting for sure.
I mean, I'm doing my part. Johnny, I do a podcast. I either record or edit a podcast every single week. This is like my second part-time job. So you can't tell me I'm not doing enough.
I didn't say you.
Someone else like Joe needs to start doing something
Tyler,
about this.
did I say you weren't?
I know.
Also, look, same reasons, bro. If your reasons count, so like I'll accept those and then put them on myself too as reasons I also didn't do this.
Joe, what's your excuse?
I'm just lazy.
I don't know. Maybe he's traveling and has a family, and things are more important than this. You think when Joe's at home, like in his limited time home, he wants to fucking sit around and make nest lists? Oh my God, Joe, that is what you want to do.
I mean, that is what he wants to do. He doesn't want to work on like making a website, though. He wants to research more variants to make sure what he puts on the website is correct.
All right.
So I got a couple more minor things that nobody gives a crap about, but I do. So I'm just going to speed run through a couple of them.
Please do.
So Dragon Warrior, Part 1. We have the bottom right screenshot that says 1 HP versus 2 HP. Next, Major League Baseball. Top left corner of the front of the box, you have a star versus no star on the LJN logo. Nobody knows what it's doing there. Gunsmoke, we have the completely different box variant, one with the bar scene and one with the more
cartoony.
Well, I think bar is the cartoony one, and then the more photorealistic art is the later one.
The side profile.
Yeah. Gary Kitchen's Battle Tank. The back of the box, one was distributed by Mediagenic, and then the other version was distributed by Electrobrain. Let's keep going. Bases loaded. We have the orange box versus the blue box. Tecmo NBA basketball. That's one I forgot to bring up with the stickers. You have serialized stickers on the front of the box, the holographic sticker. So each box is its own variant. Just got to remember that. Lunar Pool. Lunar Pool has the orange shadow versus no shadow on the logo. Miracle Piano. You have the two different boxes for the Miracle Piano, not counting sticker variants. So if you look at the back of the box, it tells you the list of all the systems it's compatible with. On the later print run, it's compatible with more systems, so they added those systems to the list. Wheel of Fortune. We have a misprint. On the side of the box, it says Veal instead of Wheel. They forget one of the bars in the Wheel logo. So it just says Veal instead. Simpsons, Bart versus the Space Mutants. You have the position of Matt Groening's signature on a different spot. One is near Lisa and one isn't. Rad Racer, you have all of the daytime screenshots where the car is crashing in every single screenshot for some reason.
That's one of my favorites.
Next up,
it's so stupid.
It's so my favorite variant. I don't know why. It's so stupid. Why? Like somebody was sleeping at the wheel.
Yeah, that's why
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. 4 times.
Casino Kid. You have the back of the box, the text box on the blurb that they print on the back of the box. In some versions, it's yellow. In other versions, it's like a lime green color. Any more? Yes. Freedom Force. Freedom Force. You have the laser gun, the zapper gun. It's either gray in some versions or yellow in others. Wizards and Warriors. Look at the back of the box again. The license to acclaim text, I guess, or whatever you want to consider that legal block of text, it's closer to the barcode, like really like pressed up against it versus like spaced out the way it should be on some versions. Can I think of anything else? I tried speed running them, and now I can't think of any others.
No, I think that's like a pretty good list. It's not, you don't need to be comprehensive. Also, that base is loaded. It has 3 variants because it's got the black circle seal, which has the 2 offers, and then the oval
and then
seal.
they adjust the bottom of the box. Yeah.
So 3.
Yeah. So it's got three major variants.
So stupid. Bases loaded. Get out of here with your 3 variants.
And then back into actual normal territory. This is stuff that you might actually want to collect as a collector. Are the total box art changes.
These are the good ones.
I mean, these are where you're right. These are the good ones that you actually want as a collector, where you go beyond, you go beyond the 677, and this is where you go next.
Yeah.
So you have,
right?
Yeah.
Shut up. You don't even care about unlicensed games,
Tengen
Johnny. Don't
counts.
bring up Tengen in
Tengen
this.
counts.
Oh my God.
Well, yeah, you have the 4 Tengen games. You have Gauntlet, RBI Baseball, Pac-Man, and then Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, I think it is. So you have those 4.
Then 4
you have
Tengen games, meaning they were both licensed and unlicensed.
Right. Then you have Gunsmoke, which I already brought up. You have the bar scene versus the photorealistic scene. Complete changes of the box include Family Fun Fitness Athletic World. They changed the name to Athletic World, and they completely changed the art. Flying Dragon, the Secret Scroll. They have a white box and a red box. Hollywood Squares. They have a blue box and a black box. You have Super Mario Brothers 3, which has the left rows versus right. Then you have Gyromite, which comes in the big box. You have Untouchables, again, black versus blue box. Wayne Gretzky's Hockey, which comes in 3 different versions. There's the black jersey he's wearing, the white jersey he's wearing with the logo, and then the white jersey without the logo.
That's only the cartridge, though. That's not a major variant.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But you still have the 2 major variants, the black jersey versus white jersey. Then you have the Blades of Steel silver box versus the red box. And then last but not least, you have the 4 classic series that they made. You have the Legend of Zelda 1 and 2. You have Punch-Out, which you just recently found out about, Tyler.
So weird.
And then you have yeah, right? And then you have Metroid, which is the best box update.
Yeah, the worst Metroid box is the yellow Metroid box.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other game in history, actually, that has a good, like, best hits version other than Metroid.
Where they made it worse art, yeah.
Yeah,
really good,
like,
really good update for Metroid. Where they had the classic 8-bit art and they ruined it by putting just generic picture of Samus on the yellow background.
Yeah, because 8-bit Samus, like looking like she's got her hands in a hand warmer, is the better box art.
Yeah, it is.
Give me a second, guys. I got to check on something real quick.
Tyler,
whatever. What's going on, Johnny?
How do you not like that box art? What about it don't you like?
I don't like the art style. First of all, like, Silver Box is like, it's like a classic series of NES games. I love the 8-bit art. And that was like the era of making that art out of like Post-its basically and taking a picture of it to get that box art, which is also fucking fantastic. And it's not stupid. Let me bring up the Metroid box art. Metroid NES box. Because I know it's just like a side profile of Samus, but like the Super Mario Brothers box, as classic as it is literally Mario jumping into lava.
Yeah,
but look at this Metroid box. It's Metroid standing next to Samus standing next to one of the turtle things, shooting one of the spider things. I don't know the names of Metroid enemies. I'm sorry. And like, it's got a bunch of elements. It's fine. It's great. It's great.
Great.
It's
very of the era.
It's
very of the era.
I'm a really big fan of video games that don't lie about what they are. Like, I like the concept of Atari games, just like showing you something that is like totally not what the game is. But on the other hand, I like that this game shows you exactly what it is. Because like when I think of Metroid, this is what I think of. I think of Samus and a bunch of orange enemies on like in a blue world. Like I realize there's more than just blue platforms in Metroid, but this reminds me of Metroid. Right. Whereas that picture of the re-release of Metroid, it's just like, it's something I might see on a strategy guide, whatever.
Okay.
And it makes me even madder that it says the original when it's like specifically a re-release. Which I guess like maybe this came out after Metroid 2 or something, and that's why they put the original badge on it, but like, come on.
Well, they use the artwork, I think, from the Game Boy Metroid. No,
Is that what it is?
yeah, I'm pretty sure.
All right. You know what? When they re-released Metroid on GBA, do you think they used the yellow box or the silver box artwork? They used the silver box artwork.
Okay. Okay, Joe, you ran down a bunch of variants. Anything else you want to add? Because we've got you well over 2 hours now, and I want to get you back to your life since I promised you to.
I mean, I could talk about this. I could talk about this stuff all day. We only talked about box variants so far. When there's cartridge manual insert variants, I mean,
what?
All right, I think.
Go ahead, Tyler.
I'm just saying, I think we talked about enough variants. I want to ask Joe. We are in 2023 now, so like the group that grew up with, say, like the PlayStation 2 have firmly grown up. They are collectors now. We can go on Reddit. 95% of people, probably more, do not care about anything about what we just talked about. And when we're getting this deep into like the NES lore, talking about like obscure packaging variants, like obscure bundles, like the Golgo Mania, Golgo 13 pack.
God, I want one.
NES collectors, like serious NES collectors, do not know that thing exists because it is so obscure. And we're still talking about it like this is a really cool thing that's interested that we should be looking into. So NES, we have like, not completely, but like we're really serious about figuring out NES. You get to even like Game Boy or Super Nintendo, there's so much we don't know about those, let alone you get to Xbox and PlayStation 2. There are so many variants that only Dan Gomez knows about on those consoles. But I go and I look at a collector, like the PlayStation 2 generation is basically like my generation of people. Like I'm 35 years, I don't know how old I am. I'm 34 or 35 years old. So why does no one care about this? Why, when I look at a collection of PlayStation 2 games, I feel like I am more likely than not to see even greatest hits games mixed with Black Label games, which is like the biggest crime against humanity I can imagine. But beyond that, no one cares about variants. No one is like looking at their PlayStation 2 variants. How come only NES people care about this shit, Joe? And will it ever change?
I mean, there's so many facets I could theorize about why that's the case. Nintendo Age has a lot to do with it. It was sort of like this. It was sort of like this primordial pit that this entire collectible industry hobby, I want to say, sort of oozed out of, and they sort of started all this, and that's what they primarily focused on. But also, there's other factors. Like, I want to blame Pokemon on a lot of complete set collecting. It's sort of like we was a certain age at a certain time. We was growing up with NES, SNES, N64, and we gravitated sort of to places like Nintendo Age, which sort of indoctrinated us to go a little further back than what we're comfortable with, which is NES. Because me and you, Tyler, we're definitely more 90s kids than 80s kids, and NES is, I would say, distinctly 80s, late 80s.
I was always the youngest guy on like Digipress, like talking about like Atari and NES games. Like I remember, because like I mean now it's like whatever. Like I'm in my 30s, I like 80s stuff. Who cares? But like when I was 16, like there's no other teenagers talking about this shit.
Right, exactly. So it's sort of like these places that we wanted to be in. They talked about this other stuff that influenced us to go into that direction. So I want to say we was sort of manipulated by outside forces into this kind of stuff. And there's nothing driving later generations into that stuff.
So I totally agree, but like why? So I don't know who the biggest influencer is in like, let's say the PlayStation 2 collecting scene, but like just pretend it's like Metal Jesus. I don't know what Metal Jesus talks about. But like why is it all what does he talk about? Hidden gems? Like why is it cooler to have a hidden gem than the Square Enix version of Final Fantasy X, which is like the rare print in between Black Label and Greatest Hits?
I want to say either one of two things, maybe even a mix of both then. It's either because the set is just simply too large, so it's too hard to focus on variants and stuff like that. And then the other thing is that there just isn't enough popularity in that category to want to diversify your collection to make you stand out. I mean, it goes back to that point that I was trying to make earlier, that you want your stuff, when you post it online, you want it to be like, look at me, I got this version, you don't have this one, and you should look for this one. And there's just not enough of that in the community, I think.
Well, it's also marketability, right? And hidden gems are a very easy thing. It's like, do you have this rare thing? Oh, this game is actually good. Go out and get it. People have now attached like a financial ideal to that. So the idea of a hidden gem also now equates to money. So if you put out a hidden gem video, you're saying, hey guys, go look for these things that could make you money, which, appeals. And they're like, these are much easier to find than like, hey, please look at this tiny Square Enix logo, which may or may not be there. Then like, hey, just go find this one copy of the game and you could then potentially go make some money. And this is for a crowd of people who definitely think retro games are meant to be played. Like, get out of here. That's why it appeals to people. Like, people want to pretend that they don't care about money or any kind of status, but hidden gems suddenly give you both of those.
Oh, and you know what? Another thing I just thought of. There's not an easy, like an instant, there's not that aha moment for any other library, really. Like NES, your aha moment would be realizing like, hey, I got this round shape on the front of the box, but then my cartridge has this white oval shape. What's that? Like, there's nothing like that's like distinctly like, oh my God, what the heck is going on here?
I mean, that's kind of what makes NES the best thing. Because like even like just cartridges, which is the default thing that people would start collecting, like 3-screw and 5-screw, and it has all the variants. I don't know. There's not like not one guy out there like looking at all the freaking like holographic codes on the discs of PlayStation 2 games and be like, guys, I found the first release of God of War by looking at the holographic print on the disc. Right. Like if someone posted that on Reddit, everyone would be like, all right, who cares?
Right. Like if you want to go deep into variant collecting on other systems like PlayStation 2 or whatever, you instantly have to dive into the abyss. Like, there's no transition from like the beach to the Marianas Trench. It's just like a cliff.
It's like it's a cliff, and like there's no one to help you. Like, you are doing all your own research. Like with NES, there's a bunch of guys like you who are like, all right, here's some things to look at. There's TMs, there's R's, there's seals, there's screws.
Well, it also
like
had time
PS2, it's like, I don't know.
It had time to bake and be its own thing, and a bunch of people collectively going in on it together. And then it was established. So it was the thing. And then as those other things rose up, people should have been like, it wasn't equitable across systems. So it was just like, oh, don't collect those. We only collect NES. Even Super Nintendo, which is just next. And they were like, nah, still a trench of information. We don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, and Super Nintendo has an analog too to the 5-screw, 3-screw thing. If you look at the early Super Nintendo carts, they have the locking cartridge where it actually locks into the system versus the sliding out cart where you could just pull it out without damaging your system.
That is so the craziest thing is, I'm sure there's like a small community who cares, but like no one cares about that. And that's the cartridge. That's the thing everyone collects, but there are so many more collectors who could be like, all right, I could name some cool 5-screws. I can name some, like, maybe an interesting 3-screw or two. But like, no one is like, I know the rare slide variant of this game, because no one cares about Super Nintendo. And people care about Super Nintendo, but it is so much less cared about in terms of collecting NES.
As a collectible, nobody collects Super Nintendo. It's just you collect NES.
If you ask NES collectors their favorite video game system ever, a lot of them would say Super Nintendo. And like,
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
But the collecting community is like, yeah, I'm just gonna get like the complete in box versions of my favorite games. But when I look at variants, I really want to go back and look at the NES stuff.
Yeah, well, it's because there was a team of people out there working, so you know what you should get excited about, and it gives you a groundwork and a base just to like, okay, these are the types of things to look for. Until that groundwork is laid, people can't do it themselves. They don't know, or like they
Do it yourself. Just go look at the shit. What do you think? You think that these people were born like, oh man, I just know. Oh, the seals changed in 1989.
It's not that people
just looked at shit forever.
It's not that people are incapable. It's just they need a place to start. They need to be shown an example. Why do you think like start guides are so big on YouTube? There's just, if you put in start guide to anything, you're just going to get a billion results. And it's because people are always like, starting things is hard. How do I do that? Please give me some examples. And NES had a bunch of people who were like, well, I guess if we're going to do this, we're just going to do this, and went out, right? Like Etler published his list, and then some other people were like, oh, I guess we could add to this. And then they're collecting, and they're like, especially as people start to show each other pictures and compare, it branches out from that. You can see the evolution of it. But people didn't do that with any other system, really. I mean, they have in small pockets, but you need to get some sort of critical mass that's then average people can look at and then go get excited about. And also, Nintendo is...
Here's the example. The example is NES. Follow the NES example. Just apply all the things you learned there to Super Nintendo.
But
that's all you got to do.
Doesn't exactly work.
I'm not doing it either, but I'm not the one claiming.
But it doesn't apply, Tyler, because Super Nintendo has other weird stuff too. Like it has like those the trays, the box trays. You have the ones where they're like in the center, and then the ones where they're like offset.
But like, if you're a crazy NES person and you know about like styrofoam variants, you would know to look for.
Yeah,
that.
but like,
or like
some games, like we don't even know which game. Like, I mean, we kind of do now, but like, which games all came with the plastic cartridge covers? Not everyone came with that. Like, they changed the baggy style. There's a lot of weird stuff. And then just like through the print runs of these games, like they just start removing posters and stuff, which we've started to document. But come on, if you don't know to start looking for all of this, it's hard.
Figure it out. I'm just saying. I'm not the one saying SNES is my favorite console. I don't know.
But if we're not going to be doing that, Tyler, and we're the NES freaks, then who's going to do it? And we love Super Nintendo. We
need a Super Nintendo guy who is not a Nintendo guy, and that doesn't exist. Like, everyone who likes Super Nintendo also likes NES.
It doesn't, because Nintendo Age stole that from the community by taking people like us.
We
were supposed to be the Super Nintendo
guys.
I
mean,
it's really true. That is very true. Oh my God. Is that like the reason?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, yeah. All right, well, I guess Super Nintendo will just be fucked forever. And for some reason, no one's ever going to care about, like, PlayStation 2 and beyond. Like, besides, like, the sealed people are going to figure it out, like, on the sealed end. But there's, like, I feel like that complete in box collecting variant community is just never going to get off the ground. Because there's never going to be a community that specifically exists to look into it.
I mean, think about how long ago me and you joined Nintendo Age. It's, I think, 11 or 12 years for me now.
Yeah.
And how much time has passed since then? Shouldn't PS2's time have already come?
Yeah, exactly. It should have already come, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, too. It's like a counter-argument to that. All the people who say that video game collecting should be dead and Nintendo is going to be in the same place Atari is in a few years. But the gulf between Atari and Nintendo, like in years, is not actually that big. Nintendo has still been a stronger collectible for a longer sustained amount of time. So I don't buy all those arguments.
Yeah, there's like only, 8 or 9 years between Atari
That's not
and
even
NES?
that many. Like the end of Atari and the start of Nintendo, they're not that far apart.
Yeah, they overlapped. The last Atari game was 1990.
Well,
so.
Yeah.
Or the last-ish. I don't remember the last one anymore. I used to think it was Clax, and then I remember I found one later. Gremlins, right? Okay.
Gremlins. Love it. Fine. Please find me one.
So maybe, I think maybe there'll be a resurgence in complete in box variant hunting when physical video games stop being a thing, and it forces people, because like right now, people who are interested in, I'm going to say modern for PS2, but people who are interested in disc games and things like that are probably also like, oh, the Nintendo Switch, it's the cool hot new thing, it's the current thing to collect. There's all these very limited print things to collect. Who cares about PlayStation 2? That's old shit. But when there's like a cap to how many physical video games exist, I feel like that will force us to reconsider the physical complete in box video games that already exist. And just like when we have nothing but decades in time to look at the same fucking games over and over, more people will get interested in weird variants for that stuff.
I don't believe in the death of physical media. I mean, look at vinyl records. I mean, they sort of died down over the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and then they like just totally took over, and now they're like the number one physical media for music.
As a
I guess we'll have to see.
Well, I wouldn't even say just as a collectible. Like if you go in Target, or Best Buy or whatever, I mean, they sell the actual vinyl record players.
I'm friends with a few vinyl collectors. Yeah, but yeah, it's still a collector's market. Even those ones, like a lot of people still buy records for artists they like, and they don't own record players. That's a thing that happens.
I'm considering selling my record player because I don't listen to my records anymore. I used to like listen to them once when I got them. Now I don't buy records because I'm not a crazy person, but come on, we don't need this in my life.
All right. I'm going to wrap us up. I'm going to, just because we're at like 2 hours. This is like longer than, we're getting longer than an episode now.
And we just scratched the surface. So
we can do a part 2. There's nothing stopping us. It's an After Dark. We can just turn around and do a second one. But for reasonable people.
Yeah, because I didn't cover Rev A variants. I didn't even cover the banner variants for boxes. And that's
Rev
just
A,
boxes.
you mean the first print because it's the first revision, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
That's a lie. Don't believe that.
But Joe, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for talking variants with us. We will have you on again to go more because NES variants is a dark hole and it's deep.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And thank you for having me, guys.
And before we part, I just want to talk to you guys real quick before we go about Werewolf, the Last Warrior, maybe known as Warwolf to some of you. Don't know why it has knives for hands, but if you ever looked at the art for that game, in Japan it's weird. But if you look on the Nintendo one, he's busting out of a Nintendo cartridge. Yeah, he's busting. Yeah. It's just a weird thing that I don't...
Yeah, it's pretty
cool. What a weird box art that he's busting through the cart. So, like, in their mind, a tiny werewolf somehow got packaged in that cart. And this guy with his knife werewolf hands said, "No, thank you. I'm getting out." That's weird.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite games, too, because it comes with a comic
also
book.
A weird variant.
And then another weird variant is Monster in My Pocket. I got to throw in at least one more before I sign off. So the Monster in My Pocket has the little Lemmier statues in there.
Figures, not statues.
And there's four. Like... Well, yeah, figurines, Keishi toys, whatever you want to call them. And there's 4 of them. You have the lime green, orange, blue, and can't remember the 4th. Pink. There you go.
Yep.
Sort of matches the Sachin stuff, actually.
Yeah, I'm happy we came full circle from Sachin box colors to Monster in My Pocket figure colors.
Game I famously didn't know came with a figure because it says it right on the front of the box.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many variants like that too. That like if you just read the box, it just tells you what's in it.
I think I gave that episode advice. Maybe the episode hasn't come out yet, but I'm like, guys, the best way to know about variants is just to read the box. Just read boxes, and they will tell you. They will just tell you that they put weird things in them. Because people are like, I can't believe that came in there, like myself, and you're like, yeah, it says it right on the front of the box or the back of the box. Some of them are obscure on the back,
but then some. Then sometimes they forget to put the thing though, like Little Nemo. They mentioned that it comes with the Mega Man sticker. It doesn't come with the Mega Man sticker.
Some bullshit. So anyone you see selling a Little Nemo with a sticker, they're fucking liars. They put that in there to get money. Just kidding. No one did that because they're putting those with Mega Man to get extra money out of those.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. Thanks for listening.